Good evening. It is now 6 p.m. on December 15th. We have all counselors with the exception of James Steele and Linda Caprera present, and we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so good evening and thank you all for attending tonight. We're going to start off our meeting with the recognition of the Winthrop Police Department. And we have Jen Cushman here from the University of Maine at Augusta to speak to the efforts of our police department.
Thank you, Chair and members of the Town Council and Chief Furland and members of the Winthrop Police Department and members of the community. Tonight, the University of Maine at Augusta is proud to recognize the Winthrop Police Department with our UMA 100% Award for Community Policing Education. This award is presented to departments where every sworn officer has completed UMA's Community Policing Certificate. That matters because it means that this department shares a common approach to serving this community. It reflects common training and shared expectations and a shared commitment to working with residents as partners. Community policing is not just a concept, it's about how officers show up every day, how they build trust, and how they work with residents, local organizations, and municipal partners to address challenges together. At UMA, workforce development means preparing people to serve their communities well, whether in public safety, education, healthcare, or government. Our role is to support the people Maine communities rely on every day. The program is a strong example of that work in action. Winthrop is only the second community in the state to receive this recognition following Rockland, and it reflects leadership at every level of this department. On behalf of the University of Maine at Augusta, thank you to the Winthrop Police Department for your commitment to this community, and congratulations on this well-earned recognition.
Oh, everybody's decided to show up now. Looking sharp, Drew. I'd just like to recognize Noel March. Noel, stand up. Last year, Noel March came and met with me, probably late summer, early fall, to promote this program that they were running through UMA. And I was no stranger to the community policing program. I took his course back in the mid to late 90s when I was a much younger officer. Found it very beneficial in my career to have this under my belt. And at the time, we had several of the deputies at Kennebec go through the program as well. And he said that, came back to me last year, said, we're reinstituting this program. We're going to make it attractive to the men and women by giving them credits for their Maine Criminal Justice Academy courses, along with the 3 credits from this new course, for a total of 18 credits, which goes a long way in assisting our officers in obtaining degrees and going forward with their commitment to our community. So I'd like to thank Noel for his coming to see me again and reemphasizing the importance of this, as I knew it was. And I'd just like you to recognize the men and women who took 13 weeks of their time to take this class online. Noel, do you want to explain how the process, how the course worked.
The agenda tonight. Uh, The opportunity to access already 15 college credits is about a $7,000 value per officer. That's coming from the Maine Criminal Justice Academy to UMA, adding this on-duty online course where they together with other officers from around the state and out of state, as well as citizens from around the state and out of state, together go through this process of learning how to be partners in problem solving and doing the local work that it takes to take a preventative, proactive approach to maintaining a low crime rate, low social disorder, and a high level of public safety for Winthrop. So these officers are to be commended. I've spoken with, I guess, Lieutenant Hammond here, who said, you know what, there's a lot of conversation that course sparked, and we have a lot of ideas that we might not have thought of before the course allowed them to tackle the issues. So anyway, thank you very much on behalf of the University of Maine at Augusta. Just know we're here to help you transform your community to be at its very level best. Thank you.
And again, I'd like to just reiterate the fact these men and women worked hard to successfully complete this course. They did it between calls, on their time, on their computers, at the office, and they all graduated with honors in that course. And I'd just like to thank them all. Any questions?
No, thank you very much, Chief. Thank you for seeking out these programs, and thank you to the department for all your time and service and dedication. And I think that we'd like to get a photo with the police officers if we can. That would be wonderful. Thank you.
Like, yeah.
This time, we'll go ahead and open it up for public comment. If there's anyone in the audience or anyone online that has a comment that they would like to make to the council, you may come to the podium and state your name. Anyone online? All right, not hearing anything online or from the audience, we'll move on to item 165, discussion of the proposed amendments to the special amusement ordinance. And I did see that we have some of those in there, and you're seeking some input from the council?
I am. We are not looking at a decision tonight as opposed to just some direction. And you've got in your tracked copy, you've got comments from the town manager and from the town clerk. In your clean copy, you'll see there's a highlighted portion there in yellow, and those involve the key proposed changes. So, and they're mainly threefold. One is we're proposing that the council be allowed to tailor permit conditions based upon the setting and the nature of the event. Number two, we are requiring permit holders to monitor their own noise levels, ensuring that they are complying with the conditions of the permit that you would be issuing. I think this expectation is reasonable given the low cost of decibel meters. And also, since they are the permit holder, they need to ensure that they're staying within the bounds of the permit. And lastly, we are retaining the existing process of suspending and revoking a permit if conditions are violated. So, as I said, right now we're seeking your input. If you feel comfortable with that, or if you want further changes, we'll incorporate those, submit those to the town attorney for a legal review. Then we'll start the process of having public hearings at the end of which you will consider approval of the amended ordinance.
Anything from the council?
Yeah, one quick question.
Go ahead.
As far as the monitoring the noise levels, is there any, I didn't see it in here. Is there anything that, do they record the monitoring? Is there any, parameters for recording the monitoring, or like a third party monitoring? Should there be a dispute?
Yeah, and so I did not address that specifically, Roy. So what I tried to do was make this as open-ended so that depending upon, again, the nature of the event and the setting, that you guys can set what you feel like are some reasonable boundaries for it. So for instance, when we were here last discussing this, we were talking about an instance in which there's a stage at which music is performed that is, within 30 feet of a lot line. That's a whole different animal than if it's a stage that's in the middle of a 3-acre lot. And so I think those are just things that, given the proximity of other properties, whether they be residential or commercial, time of day, I think what I try to do with this is just give you the freedom to tailor those permit conditions based upon the nature of the event and where it's being held.
Councilor White?
Thank you, Anthony, for all the work you've done with this. So I have a couple questions. In the way it's going to be written now, will we have the ability to redress something if an issue came up that was unforeseen at the time? Like, is there a mechanism for us to be able to address something after the fact? Can we put language in there that would let us do that?
So there's already language in there about revoking or suspending. I think we could very easily put something in there about reconsideration of it in case you wanted to change those
circumstances.
Yeah.
Because I just don't, we're not experts at everything. And if something comes up and someone brings it up, I'd like the ability to then go back and revisit it. As far as enforcement goes, can we have some type of knowledge of what the process would look like if a permit holder had a revoked permit and continued with that activity, what the next steps would be?
Well, then there is a provision in the ordinance that involves a fine for having an unpermitted special amusement event, entertainment.
And is there a process that we have on like the town website or something that would direct a community member to say, call the dispatch center or the police department if they had issue, or the code enforcement officer? Might probably want to consider.
Yeah, I don't really consider this a code issue. I consider it more of a law enforcement issue. At least where I've worked before, law enforcement enforced the noise ordinance. And so I would see this as being similar. And so we could put in there that there will be enforcement of this would fall within the purview of the Winthrop Police Department.
I guess that's. And do we have a timeline on when this is? So if there's, wait till this is adopted?
Most definitely. Most definitely.
I just want to clarify, you did just mention a police officer or something. Under officer on duty, it says anything over 200, then you have to have a licensed peace officer?
So right now in the ordinance, that's the case. Although it specifies that it has to be a police officer. I think it should be a little broader than that. It doesn't have to be an officer with a police department. It could be a sheriff's deputy, could be any licensed peace officer. So, you know, if someone were having an event and they happen to know a game warden, which is a licensed peace officer, they could have the game warden there to enforce the permit.
Can I ask the chief of police what his experience has been with complaints of this nature? Like, I imagine you get the call, you go to a premise and just have a conversation.
The first order of business is to let them know that there was a complaint received and that they need to comply with the ordinance or the law and turn the music down to an acceptable level. 99% of the time we have compliance and people do that. And then there are those that we have to respond back a second and third time, at which time an individual could be cited for the disorderly conduct violation.
Now, does that come from our ordinance? Or does that come from a
State law.
It's a state statute?
Yeah.
Is there anything beyond that from like ordinance wise that you think that we need to do?
If there's an ordinance in place, a permit in place, then depending on the violation, it may be just an ordinance violation. However, at 11 o'clock at night, it's much better to go into a situation and explain to them what the ultimate sacrifice to them could be. And an ordinance violation may not get them to comply where a state law would, because they could be subject to arrest.
In this instance, there is the ordinance reads that there's a $500 fine for each offense if you're violating the ordinance in some sort of way.
Was that something that you would do?
So that would be a civil matter. So we'd issue
We would go through a court
that's correct.
issue. Okay. So there's a separate process for an immediate situation, which state statute typically covers.
Correct.
Now, if you go there and they do have a permit, does that kind of change what you're allowed to do?
No, it does not.
Okay, you can still hold it to the same standard.
You could actually end up going down both roads at the same time.
Okay. Have you had any issues? No. Okay.
No.
Okay, that's all I need to know. Thank you.
Any other questions from the council, comments? Yeah, go ahead, Andy.
What if I don't want anybody to hear me? I have to take a little bit of a broad stroke at this because in some perceptions that could have a conflict. My broad stroke is that I've been involved civically since around 1982. The number of ordinances and regulations has steadily increased, for the most part, for the better. And this is yet another ordinance and regulation which citizens or businesses may look upon unfavorably with respect for any neighbors that are going to have to live with it. I'm not sure that I agree with this. I think it's too arbitrary. You need one rule for everybody.
Are there
That's
any
it.
comments from the audience? Any residents Anything else from the council?
So I have a question to begin with. What is considered commercial property off 202? How many feet off from,
I think it's
202.
500 feet.
sorry,
Have to
500 feet? Okay. So the Dubie's house is actually in commercial property area, as we are.
I think there is a map that actually shows. the
Yeah, we
zoning.
looked it up. It's very hard to read and hard to distinguish.
There should
was
be a
just a
better
que-
copy of it.
It was just a question.
Yeah.
So,
Ma'am, what's your name?
Renee Adams, I'm sorry. I'm one
Okay.
of the owners of the White Duck.
Okay, thank you.
And just always know that the mapping never is the official guide. It's always like
Got you. But
pulling out the
if it's
tape.
500,
So
it is. So
Gotcha.
I'd just like to bring it back to the discussion real quick.
Yep.
Just to make sure
I
that
just
we,
needed a question answered. So we have definitely stayed within the boundaries of the hours of noise permit. This meeting right now is over 75 decibels. So, and this is very quiet. So if you put I said it at the last meeting, if you put a decibel level on us, you have effectively hurt the White Duck's business. I believe that looking at instances and businesses and giving them ordinances and special permits. So you're going to look at the tavern and TJ's different than you're looking at the White Duck. And how about the barn at Silver Oaks? They have music, they have neighbors. So how's that going to affect them? In a previous life, I owned a bridal shop. The barn at Silver Oaks is a premier spot in Maine. So they're effectively going to be hurt by this as well. So I empathize, but we are in a commercial zone doing commercial things. So, we support reasonable noise management. And Zach, we have a meeting tomorrow with our sound engineer. If you'd like to join, to discuss ways that we can help the situation without the town getting involved. So we stood at the mailbox at the White Duck, and it was almost 90 decibels just from the traffic going by. So this gets really sticky when you're looking at treating ordinances different. We want to protect the residences and the business and the town, but we respectfully don't know how that decibel level comes in. Also, as far as the officer on duty, we need clarification on that because we could have 75 people in our restaurant, 20 people on our deck, and 125 outside. So does that include everybody on the property, or is that just when we have a large event outside? We did have security this summer that we put on for one of our big events. It worked perfectly. We have seen the Winthrop Police, I think, once since we opened, so we have no problems. We take care of our own problems. No, this is different. So, we are asking that we avoid adding any decibel caps during regular business hours. And again, if you're asking us to self-police, what if I say our decibel meter is saying this and somebody else says their decibel level is saying that? How does that get governed? So, oh, yes. Travis wants to talk and he's better at it, so people pay you to talk.
So here's the thing. You guys ever wear something and you're like, I'm not sure how it's going to look. And your wife's like, that's too small for you. And you're like, no, it's not. And then you look at yourself on the TV and you're like, this shirt's too small for me. That's what I feel like right now. I feel very insecure.
Podium in front of you, you're good.
No, I just hopped in front of it. Right. So Aaron over here does have a decibel reader. So he's reading this. I'll put it up here, probably louder next to the microphone. Here's the thing. I got a question for the police officer because he's so good looking with the mustache. What? If I had my commercial, if I'm a resident and the resident next door is playing music in their garage, right? They're playing music outside until 10 o'clock. What are they allowed to do and not allowed to do? If I just have a house and a next door neighbor, just up the road here. Yep. No. Before 10 o'clock, we don't go past 9 o'clock usually. So I mean, within the measures of, because I got to be honest with you guys, it does feel like we're getting picked on. It does feel like we're getting attacked. And we have tens of thousands of dollars that we pay towards taxes. We hire over 60 people. We bring tens of thousands of people to our restaurant, into the town of Winthrop. Like, we feel like we're an asset, a value add to this town, but it does feel a little bit like we're being attacked at the White Duck, to be honest with you. And we don't throw mud. The truth is, we don't come and complain about things that have happened to us. And I don't want to open that door. I'd like to figure it out with the Doobies just outside of here and figure out what we can do, whether that's a purchase or whatever. But to go through all of this for one business that we think has a big value add for the community, it really isn't fun. I mean, we've invested millions of dollars. I own a few businesses up and down the 202 corridor. So it does feel like when we have this meeting and we have, notes saying like, oh, we can just do it to one business with one people that's in a zone commercial, it does feel a little bit like, well, we pay a lot of taxes. We bring a value add to the community, and it's not like, so like we have better notes and stuff like that and things. But again, we don't want to be here mudslinging. We don't want to do that. That's not who we are. You guys haven't heard anything from us about what we've had to deal with some people. So we're not going to get into it, but I just want to make sure that's very clear. I appreciate you guys taking the time to talk with us about this, but if I have a neighbor and I'm playing my radio till 10 o'clock at night, there's nothing, you know what I mean? Like, I can do that. So that's all I really got. And I'm going to walk back. Please don't stare at my shirt being too small. I'm on Ozempic, but it's like, I guess it's not working. It's weird. I don't know. You
Travis,
guys look lovely.
thank you. And Renee, thank you very much. I have taken some notes. As
Thank
of right now, it's just a discussion. And
Absolutely.
we are going to focus this on all of the businesses in the town. So it's an ordinance that will pertain to all of them.
Thank you very much.
I have made a note that you would like clarification of the officer on duty, inside or outside. How do we govern multiple meters and avoid during regular working hours? You also noted the decibel levels in here, as well as the commercial from the roadway. So as long as I've got all of that straight, we'll continue to consider that, and we'll bring it back to the table at a following meeting.
So-
One more question.
Yes.
Last meeting you were here, and thanks for coming again.
Yeah.
And just wanted just clarification. You were talking about building a dome type structure. Is that still on the docket?
We're meeting him tomorrow at 10 o'clock. So
Okay.
I invite any one of you who want to come and be part of that meeting.
No, I trust that you guys will probably put it in place in doing the right thing. I just, I really appreciate being here, and Travis making your comment. Nobody wants to attack anybody here. I think everyone wants to be heard, as well as the citizens. So sorry, you guys might feel that way, but it's not tailored just to you guys. So just making that clear.
You all to know also that we have corporate events there that use a podium and microphone just like this. It would be over what you're considering for your decibels. So I truly, truly want you to consider how this impacts.
I think we're looking at it very closely, because I know I'm not supporting really a decibel level, but I'm thinking about other things in mind right now. So, because I think it's a hard thing to measure. So I like the open discussion. I think we should continue it. So
Thank you.
thanks.
I just wanted to point out before you leave the podium there, real quick, we don't have a set decimal that we're considering. This right now is how we're looking at, we're thinking individually, because we have to strike the balance, right? We have to make sure that the residents are feeling heard and the businesses. And so we're trying to do that. At our last meeting, we decided I'm pretty sure I can speak for everybody. We do not want a set decibel level for everybody blanket across the board, because there's different situations. That's not to say that's not something that we would consider down the line, but we would have a conversation where, is it something that's reasonable? Is it not reasonable? I mean, we're not going to set a decimal level that's below what traffic at 202 is going to be, right? That just doesn't make sense. So we're trying to strike that balance. Right now, this is just going to look at basically being able to cater our special events permitting to specific venues, and then taking into consideration the whole environment around it, whether there's a neighborhood or if it's something that's further away. So that way we can strike the balance between both the residential and the business side, because we do want to make sure that everybody is heard, essentially. But yeah, I agree with you. It would be very difficult to like have 1 decibel annotated, and then, you know, like we said, we're not going to be having people hide in the bushes listening for, I mean, it's just not going to happen. So we've heard you, and
Thank
I
you.
think the majority of us agree with that point. Okay.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else in the audience or anyone online that would have a comment? There's something in the chat. Oh, I think it's just an internal conversation.
Yeah, so one of our chatters said, I think this is because of the white duck, but it should be addressed to the whole town. As far as the decibel level being different from one reader to another isn't going to be a big difference. And as I said at our last meeting, it would be foolhardy for us to try to pass an ordinance that addresses one specific site or instance. And so what we try to do is, as Aaron said, is just propose something that gives the council a lot more latitude in deciding if it wants to issue a special amusement permit and under what conditions. It says so Joe says, could this ordinance apply to town or school events? And I suppose that it could. What is the decibel level of a high school football game? I have no idea.
What's your name?
Hello, my name's Roger Doobie. My family lived right behind the White Duck for early 70s. I've been paying taxes all those years. I cannot be in my house when they are playing music. And I've been told by the code enforcement officer to go talk to the White Duck, which I have. And they said they couldn't do nothing for me. They weren't going to change a thing. They weren't breaking any rules. So how am I supposed to deal with this?
Okay.
This is why I'm here for a noise decimal, because I need to be able to live in my house. I was operated on 6 weeks ago. I could not rest in my bedroom because I was shaking with the music bouncing off my house. Something needs to be done.
Thank you, Mr. Doobie. We are not focusing on individual organizations at this time. We are looking at the special amusement ordinance. Do you have any comments pertaining to the ordinance itself?
I like what the town manager has proposed. I think there should be, the decimal readings should be different with different areas, because somebody might be way out in the field where they're not bothering anybody. This is 22 feet from my house, not 30. It's 22 feet from my house. I have measured it. I need to live in my house. I was gone all summer to get away from it because we couldn't take the noise anymore.
Thank you, Mr.
We took
Doobie.
this for 4 years. Now we're fighting it. I want something done. I want to be able to live in my home.
Thank you, Mr. Doobie.
You're welcome.
Are there any other comments from the audience or anyone online? All right. Anything else? All right.
So let me make sure that I understand before I move forward with this.
Yellow.
So maybe make clear that the Winthrop Police Department would enforce this within the changes. Put a provision there, not just to revoke and suspend, but an opportunity to reconsider based upon circumstances that might arise. Shannon, what were some of your other notes that maybe I need to make note of?
What they had mentioned specifically during regular working hours, I think you incorporated that into your yellow highlighted portion. So under here, I mean, it has permit conditions may be tailored to the location, zoning, proximity to residential or other commercial properties, may include limiting the number of hours, duration, and volume of amplified outdoor music performances and or noise. And so I think that includes, I mean, when you talk about hours, it was a request that we consider working hours.
Okay. So I tell you what,
And then
I'm going to, I'm sorry.
The other things too, just the clarification of the officer on duty, whether it's inside or outside, if they have certain people at a bar or inside or outside, is it the entire venue? And then how do you govern multiple meters?
And then,
Decibel meters or readers?
Yeah.
so in some of the other ordinances that I looked at, typically it was done on the lot line. And so again, I think with the way that I've tried to craft this is, I think you guys could say that there's going to be X number of decibels measured from the lot line, or measured from, let's say, 15 feet from the lot line, the lot line plus 15 feet. So I think it still gives you the latitude to set those parameters.
We also have special amusement permits come to the council for approval, and I think that we receive those in advance, that we would have enough time to go out there if we had any questions and observe or take a look.
I could always direct for research to be done, right, and held, and if we come across a situation where we'd be concerned, I mean, there'd be two types of things we'd want to be thinking about. One is we would want to preempt an issue, and then B, if someone's going to be commenting on the permit, say they're a neighbor and they had concerns, then it could be brought up in that situation, and then actually it could also be brought up after the fact. And then.
Yes, so do keep in mind that part of the process of issuing a permit is you have to have a public hearing. And so that's an opportunity for neighbors, for instance, to come and say whatever it is that they want to say about the permit.
Chief Ferland also will usually attend, and you will ask him if there have been any complaints in the previous year or anything, and he'll usually attest to that.
Yeah. And there was some mention of some other businesses, and I will say, for instance, the wedding venue, you guys remember, they come to us every year. We give them their special amusement permit, and things seem to rock along after that.
We could also talk to them, which kind of highlights how we're going to approach this in the future, is they have given the town board notice for fireworks.
That's correct.
As a courtesy for the most part, but we had expressed concern, or I should say residents expressed concern because of their animals and wanted some advance notice, and they went ahead and did that. So that was a good situation.
Yeah. And so, for instance, again, in the way that I tried to craft this, you could put that as part of a permit condition, that if they're going to have fireworks, the town needs 30 days notice in advance, so that we could just let residents know that was going to happen.
I remember to get my nose in front of the microphone this time. I know that the state has some recommendations out there that would allow residential development in unused commercial areas. If we pass that locally, and I'm not sure if it was a mandate or something we have a choice in, but if that happens, this could get very complicated. You could have a situation where you have a business without a lot of restrictions on noise, and someone moves in next to that business, and all of a sudden, okay, we have a real problem. So we really need to think about this, okay, and all the possible ramifications.
When this issue was raised during our last discussion, afterwards I checked with our town planner and said, isn't it true that you can always have residential development in a commercial zone because it's a less intensive use? And she said, yes, that's correct. So that's the case right now, is any commercial zone that we have, you could have residential development within that zone.
Apparently, there might be some towns where that's not allowed. If it's allowed here, that just makes my point. I mean, this could get complicated. You know, you could have a factory, you could have a place serving alcohol, you know, and having bands. And someone comes in and plants a house alongside of it, and all of a sudden they're complaining. So, you know, that's
What
all.
you're saying, but I think the ordinance, what this process, the permitting process, is kind of like the lowest limit, you know, right? Like if there's other things that go beyond the scope of what we're permitting allows, and there's an issue, then it becomes a civil situation where remedies would have to be sought through court. And so we give basically, I think, a place where both can come, and we represent, you know, the voters and institutions that pay taxes in the town. We have to give something for some measurable information on both sides, right? So someone might be able to say, I'm not going to build a house there. Now, in this situation, these establishments have been there, so it's kind of a little bit different there. But this is kind of the guidance where we can go, we can get feedback before we issue a permit, and hopefully come to resolution between a butter. And it does seem like in the White Ducks case, they are making efforts to do that. And, you're still going to have the ability to come and speak to when it comes time for permitting, to get that permit. So, we still have that opportunity. I think that's all we're looking for here.
Do you have what you need from us?
I'm sorry.
Do you have what you need from us?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you all for coming in tonight and commenting. We'll go ahead and move on to item 166, discussion of the Winthrop Monmouth Police Department consolidation. And we have Chief Ferland to speak to this.
See you, Travis.
Have a good night. Thank you.
Good evening again. Just to bring everybody up to speed on where we are at with the consolidation process. On November 4th, the Monmouth voters, as they came in to vote, they were given they had the opportunity to speak on this issue, whether we, as a town, we wanted to continue on with the talks to merge the departments together. And overwhelmingly, the responses were in favor of continuing the talks going forward. So that's what we're planning on doing. A couple of weeks ago, I met with the town managers from both Monmouth and Winthrop, and we had a discussion on proceeding forward and how we go about doing that. The proposed consolidation would actually formalize the existing collaborations that we have, strengthen public security and patrol coverage, enhance professional development and working conditions for officers, i.e. in Monmouth, we have 4.5 officers. I'm the half. Someone wants to take a couple weeks vacation. It's really hard to fill those shifts when you only have that few officers to do it. And unfortunately, it ends up by the end of summer, the officers are pretty burned out because they're covering for everybody else's shifts. One of the things this would allow is for more resources to cover those shifts if the two communities got together. And it's no different in Winthrop. We may have 9.5 officers in Winthrop, but it's still the same. So adding those extra 4 bodies to cover open shifts. And we do have situations and times when we're unable to fill the shifts. So we end up having to order someone in to work because life events get in the way. Excuse me. The other concern is education. If someone wants to go for a week's-long training, again, we run into that problem of filling the shifts. If you have more people to draw from, that allows us to better train our officers and get them out there. Better training, more professional people out on the roads. And I'm not by any means saying we don't have a professional force, because we do. But the better educated we are, the better service we're going to provide to our community. And those are just some of the staffing challenges that we live in as a small community police department. One of the things we're looking at moving forward as I develop budgets for this year for both Monmouth and Winthrop is proposing the budgets as we have in the past. And then moving forward in 27, 28 to formulate a commission, a police oversight commission to take a close look at the budgets, how we're going to combine the budgets, the responsibilities of the communities, as far as how that funding is going to go from that point on. But it would be the responsibility of this commission to look at everything and decide on best approach to fees for the services.
Chief, may I add something to that as well?
Absolutely.
And so the police commission would be proposing a budget to you guys for your approval. So I just want to make clear, the police commission wouldn't have final authority, you would. And the same thing in Monmouth. So the budget would come both to Winthrop and to the Monmouth town meeting voters for each party to approve before moving forward.
That kind of touches on one of the notes. Is that, I mean, obviously there's some questions about how that would go if, Mama said no and we said yes, but I was thinking more along the lines of like, maybe it would be more beneficial to start thinking about developing a joint committee for public safety. Like, because as we move forward, I see this becoming more of a need with the fire department as well, and potentially.
Absolutely.
And so it would be able to pivot easily once we start thinking about that. And however that would look, whether it would be a counselor and a select person or however, plus any stakeholders, I think that would be beneficial. And then looking at, the process, and then again, going back between both bodies saying, yes, we approve or not, or whatever. That's just my thought, is making it a little bit more broad on that end. And then I would say, is there any way that Nick could formulate what it would, if he took this year's budget from both departments and just to see what it would look like at a 60-40 split?
Yeah.
I can give you rough figures. Okay.
Yeah.
Monmouth PD is at about 1.08 million right now. Monmouth is at roughly 496 to 510,000. And that's going to be realistic for the 26-27 budget. So if you take those figures, put them together, Monmouth with that formula would actually go up about $180,000 a year.
Okay. Thank you.
And unfortunately, I can't speak to the town manager of the town of Monmouth, but I can say with the concern right now after Monmouth's evaluation with the taxes, I don't see that being palatable to the public's taste buds.
So what would that look like if we went, say, theoretically, to the town of Monmouth, and that was the 40%? And they said, no, we don't want to have an increase. What would you see that remedy look like?
Then it would, you're saying if the town voters voted it down, then it would go back to the commission for, to reassess and reevaluate and come up with a plan to put before the voters again.
So in that sort of way, and the Monmouth town manager's here, so I'm looking back at him, in that sort of way, it'd almost be like a school budget validation election to some extent. Okay. Yeah, come on up, Justin.
Experience with that, because municipal school is all within our own, so we don't really deal with how that works.
Right. So here in Winthrop, obviously, you are a council, so your form of government allows you folks sitting around the table, you make the decisions about how much anybody pays for anything or what you're going to do. In the town in which I work, I have to, my department heads, and just like Anthony does here, proposes things, but it has to go before before the voters. So we also don't have an open town meeting, so our system is a little bit hybrid. We vote on things by secret ballot in Monmouth, so the my select board, which would be, sort of like you guys, would poses articles just like an open town meeting, except there's no debate. So we don't sit in a room and argue about what's the benefit of one or the other. It just gets put before them, and then they show up on election day and they vote yes or no.
You see this as being this would be a separate warrant that gets presented during that meeting? Say like the Monmouth share of how do you see that getting proposed to the voters for the budgetary process?
So I think, and I don't want to speak for your town manager, but I think we've had this discussion, is I think the idea of the police commission is that it would present a number to not only the Winthrop Council, but it would present a number to the town meeting, if you will, considering that's in a secret ballot election, that those numbers would be presented by the police, whatever anybody wants to call it, the police commission or whatnot, and that it would be an up or down vote. So we would, I think, for the respect of the people that work in the police department and both communities, so that we're not sort of getting into arguments about, what the pay raises should be and all that we would defer those line item choices to the commission that would work with the police chief, town manager, and I, and the people that you appoint to that. And they would make those sort of line item choices. And then the choice for you as a council and then for the town of Monmouth would just be a number. So if you were unsatisfied with that number, you would vote it down, and then the commission would then go back and revisit that.
Do you see that being a 40-60 separate, so they would see what would be coming from the Monmouth taxpayers separately, or?
We have been using that as sort of a basis for our discussions. I think that the police commission and the council and the select board on my side, you can make that as complicated as you want. We have all kinds of cost sharing arrangements right now between our two towns when you talk about dispatch and ambulance service. So anything that's going to make that more palatable to either side, I think, is up for discussion. I think we were just using that 60-40. It's a population number, right?
Sure.
That's what. So we were just using that as a basis for our discussions. Is that fair, Anthony?
Yeah, and so just to reiterate what Justin has said, if either Winthrop or Monmouth voted it down, we go back to the drawing board with the police commission to come up with a number that's palatable for both communities.
And then both communities would have to vote again.
Yeah.
I think if yeah, so and Justin, you may want to weigh in here, but I think if one side voted for it and the other side did not, the side that did not, that's the number that we would sort of work on. Do you see it differently, Justin?
I mean, you can't work on one side without working on the other too.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, the total number would have to be approved by each community, I believe, but you guys have more flexibility than the Monmouth side because you're a council. You guys approve whatever you want to do. Right? So on my side, it's a little more, there's a little more process to it, but I think we would all still have to agree. I think it would just be a matter of it has to go back to that police commission for them to determine whether it was either too low or too high, or you didn't want to buy a car or whatever, whatever the list of issues could be that the communities don't agree on.
So just to again reiterate that you guys are much more nimble than a town meeting form of government, because calling a special town meeting to reconsider that article is a whole process in and of itself.
But like my point is, like, say they vote it down, right?
Mhm.
And
we have to reduce the overall cost.
on their
which
end is going to affect
changes.
our end.
Right.
So it's not like you can just take that piece of it and renegotiate that piece of
Fair
it.
enough.
It's going to have to be the entire budget.
It would have to be a process that we would be thinking of throughout the year kind of like a school budget and have that. So by the time, you do June as well, right?
Yes.
So we would have to, by the time June came around, have a sure, on our end. And then when do you do your town? meeting?
9th?
The town meeting is when? Or voting?
It's the June election, so it's usually that, whatever that normal June.
Yeah,
election
first week of
date.
June.
Yeah.
I mean, that could be a little bit problematic in the sense that we want to make sure we have a timely budget proposed. On our end, because if it's voted down in June, on the Monmouth end, then it's going to go back to this commission. The time would be very tight.
Yeah. And Justin, at least the town meeting forms of government that I'm accustomed to. If an article gets voted down, that departmental budget just stays the same as it was the previous year until a new number is agreed to by the voters.
We don't have to wait for them to set up.
Correct.
I agree.
Would the other half also remain the same then too?
Yes.
So
Does the town of Monmouth have a union for the police force?
Yes.
So who would be talking to that? Would it be,
So we've already discussed this. And in fact, we had proposed to our police union just to do a 1-year contract, knowing that this was coming down the pike. They didn't want to do that. They wanted to go ahead and approve a 3-year contract. And so we know that once we consolidate, we're going to have to renegotiate the contracts. Well, I was going to say in both towns, but it'll actually just be one union. So the chief and the Monmouth town manager and I will be involved in those negotiations.
And if I may, Anthony, I'm sorry, this is your meeting, so.
No, go.
Well, it's not your, right, it's their meeting, but I'm on foreign turf here, so I'm trying to be nice. Do you want to kind of, you want to kind of briefly explain that we've been working for a few years to try to make this on the contract basis? Is that okay, Anthony?
Yeah.
Okay.
So under the last negotiation, we signed our contract in March of this year with Monmouth. What we did is during the course of this 3-year contract, we stepped the Monmouth pay scale up over 3 years so that at the end of 3 years, the Monmouth pay scale is the same as the Winthrop pay scale. The other thing we did is Winthrop gets an education incentive of 5 and 10% depending on what you have for a degree. So we stepped that up in year 1. It's for Monmouth, it's 6% for a bachelor's, 3% for an associate's. In year 2, it's 8 and 4, and then in year 3, it's 10 and 5. So we've been working to try to bring these together. So when we do negotiate one, it assimilates a little easier than being the shotgun theory spread out all over the place. So we have as Monmouth, we have been working to try to get to that same level. There are some discrepancies. Monmouth has a better retirement plan. This year we proposed the 3C, I believe it is, which brings us in line with Monmouth's retirement plan. And the only discrepancy we have is the benefit for insurance is Monmouth is 100% for the employee and 60% for the family, I believe, 160. And Winthrop's 90 and 65. So they're pretty close. They're not far off, but it's all stuff that once we open up negotiations, we'll have to revisit. Because at no time do we want to deprive someone of something they already have. So it's a matter of equalizing everything moving forward.
Chief, you brought up some great points right there as far as benefits and personnel policies, workers' compensation for those types of things. How would those fall under which town? I mean, would one town take that?
Winthrop would become the fiduciary in that.
Yeah. So it'd be similar to the agreement that we have right now with Monmouth for Chief Furlan's benefit package. In that we're paying 60% of his benefit package and Monmouth is paying the other 40%. So you look at, for instance, the combined cost for workers' comp for the department, Monmouth would be paying 40, we'd be paying 60.
We'd just be sending them a monthly bill.
No, we will be the fiduciary agent, so we'll be sending them the bill and then they'll be funding us.
Chief, I understand the first year, kind of getting your feet under your, is kind of everything kind of stays the same. And then you look at the budget. What would your staffing look like, for hours where you're having a combined? Would you keep the same amount of staffing in Monmouth, same amount of staffing in Winthrop, or would you kind of interlace that together and reduce a staff member on?
It'd be kept the same.
Be kept the same?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, it just occurs to me that as we enter into this, it's almost like getting married where there's no backing up. Okay, we're going down this road, and both towns have to decide that's what they want, and they're going to make it work. If I heard the numbers right in the beginning of Chief Furlan's talk, it looks like Monmouth may get a $100,000 or $140,000 increase on the 60-40 split. That might be more palatable if we agree to only incrementally increase that over 2, 3, 4 years, something like that. But my point is, I think this is a good thing. I think it will serve both towns best, but we have to decide that we're going to find that middle road and make this work from the start.
Roy and then Zach.
The citizens, not necessarily speaking about the chief or the police or the principals, but all of us have to decide it's going to work.
Boy, we talked about the population being the splitting factor at this point. What about call volume?
Well, it's worth looking into.
Is that close or?
No, Winthrop is way higher in the call volume than.
Is it close to the 60-40 split though?
It would be close, yes. Yeah.
Okay. Administrative duties such as like, I guess each town would kind of be preparing their own budget. We're gonna have the commission between, comparing so you or the force would be attending both town meetings, would be still involved in everything in both communities, correct?
Yes.
How about, is there anything that wouldn't be covered under the budget? I'm thinking like, I'm thinking like the Knicks, the Knicks involvement, that sort of thing. Is that would be just covered under standard budget?
Yeah, I mean, that's an indirect cost, so there's no direct cost to Monmouth for that. And I don't want to speak for Justin, but I do think probably our finance office is probably more able to handle that workload simply because we have a larger staff than Monmouth does. For the finances.
Yeah.
Yeah. But one thing that you said, Roy, that I want to clarify is that each town wouldn't be working on an own separate budget. There'd be the police commission, the chief, the Monmouth town manager, the Winthrop town manager. We'd be working as a team to come up with the total budget for the operation, if that makes sense.
And then allocated individually.
Correct.
Okay, so this question is probably in the same vein. So if Monmouth, they're taking 40% of the cost and they come up short and they go back to the old budget, and let's just say they never pass it and they stay at the old budget, who makes up the difference there? Or where's the con? Like the money's,
Well, and so in that instance, Zach, our budget would be the same as the prior year's budget until we get a full budget ironed out.
Okay, so it's really the police force that would suffer.
Correct.
Okay, all right.
For I did mention personnel policies, but also other policies. I think that we had talked about increasing the distance for commuters or personal vehicles, take-home vehicles. Is that something that we would have to sit down and go through, or we're looking at going through currently with the town of Monmouth?
Monmouth's take-home policy is the same as Winthrop's.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's fair to say because we share the same chief, we probably have policies that pretty much mimic one another. Is that a fair statement, chief?
Okay. Aaron?
Chief, maybe you can speak to this. I was just curious if trying to foresee different things going down the line. What if the town of Leeds or Wayne or someone else said, hey, kind of like what you're doing, can you provide services for us? And then we saw it as like a cost share situation. Is that something that you could see?
The price is right.
Okay. I mean, if.
Yeah.
Why
We
would
could-
we
we
not explore that?
And we could incorporate it though in this model I'm trying to get at.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
So the July 1st of 2026, operating as a single functional entity seems ambitious, but with all the work that's already been done. So if this were to go to a town meeting in the town of Monmouth for June 9th, and say if the voters came back, they didn't approve it, it goes back to the commission, then it comes to us.
So operationally,
Yeah.
our plan is to begin operating as one department July 1. But we wouldn't actually see a consolidated budget until FY 28.
Okay. And do we have a current interlocal agreement in the works? Like, do you have one started to kind of take a look at? Will the select board and the council have the opportunity to review?
Yeah, I
review this?
think we'll need a memorandum of understanding or an interlocal agreement of some sort.
Okay.
That's correct.
You go to Bar Harbor and you drive in. The funny thing about Bar Harbor is I think it's Mount Desert is the primary police department, and they provide the police services for the town of Bar Harbor. So it depends which side of the road you're on. When you see the car go by, they have different names on each side. Most people don't know that. You would assume Bar Harbor has a police department, but they don't. Mount Desert serves for both communities, and I can't recall the other one, but we'd be the third, I believe. If we can pull this off, we'd be the third community that could pull this off, which, in my opinion, would be really something great for our communities. But that's
And that
Go-
that in itself presents issues because we don't have much to fall back on to look and explore what worked, what didn't work. There's not a whole lot of resources to draw from. So as we going through this and as we're sitting down and figuring this all out, we're kind of doing it blind.
Have you reached out to those communities that you know are doing it?
Yep.
And just for feedback?
Yep.
Good.
And I think one important thing to say here is that one of the reasons for doing this is it helps to cement the sustainability of the police departments in both communities. I think Monmouth, given the size of its department, is a little bit more at risk than we are. But if we combine forces, then we know for sure we're going to have the bandwidth to offer a certain salary and ensure that people can take their vacation time and that they'll be able to engage in training and professional development. Those are the sort of things that attract officers to a department. And so I think again, we'll be cementing the fact that we're going to have a police department here. And a lot of small communities have seen their departments simply go away simply because they couldn't attract enough officers, and they got down to 3 officers and then 2 officers and then 1 officer and then the department didn't exist altogether.
All right, so can we then expect to see this in the upcoming budget process? Are we planning to?
Yeah, so again, I think we're planning on doing a budget much as we have in the past. Monmouth's going to do the same. When we talked last, Justin had an anticipation that there may be some surplus funds from Monmouth as a result of this. And if so, then we talked about, well, maybe we divert that into a police capital reserve for future capital needs. But I think it's going to get more interesting when we start working on a joint budget together. But when I say we're going to functionally operate as one department beginning July 1, in a lot of ways, we're already doing that because there's so much collaboration between the departments as a result of sharing a chief. It's not, well, I mean, Monmouth, when they arrest someone, they bring them over to our facility in order to process them. And so there's a lot of back and forth between the two departments. And so in a lot of ways, this is just formalizing what's already going on from an operational standpoint.
I'm just going to say from my standpoint, I'd say thank you for all the hard work you've been doing. We start looking at developing the commission anytime soon after that. I think that's where we would be looking at timeline wise, right?
Yeah, and our thought was we'd probably have like 3 members from Winthrop, 2 members from Monmouth, and the managers would be ex officio members along with the chief and whoever you wanted to appoint. If some of you wanted to serve on that versus appointing citizens, I think probably a mix would be great, but those will be your decisions.
To see an interlocal agreement sooner than later. And then also the other towns you had mentioned, Bar Harbor and the other one with the joint, if we could just get their information.
Yeah, I made a note to myself to find the MOUs from those 2 other joint operations.
All right, great. Any other questions, comments? All right, thank you, Justin Poirier and Chief. And we do have one question from a resident, sorry.
So
State your name.
my name's Sandy Steele. You all know me. Question for you. Do you still not cover South Monmouth? Is that all part of Monmouth now? So it came back from the sheriff's department. It was when the South Monmouth Market was there. We had to call the sheriff's department. So it's always been Monmouth? Okay. For you. So since you've been, you cover, the sheriff doesn't respond. So they don't, you guys don't. So my other question, and it's maybe just clarification, I don't think I heard it. So it's 60/40. So say an officer is covering from Monmouth and Winthrop and gets hurt. What happens then? Does that go under our workers' comp?
Well, it's technically shared because we recoup costs when we look at the budgeting process, but I believe it'll be our plan, correct, under the Maine Municipal Association.
That's exactly right.
Okay, so I'm not sure how that works. I know for us, if you have claims, that goes up. So that price would go up. And if we were to go there, now say a cop car had an accident and it was a Monmouth cop car, does it still get split 60/40?
So I don't think, Sandy, it's right to think about Monmouth cop cars and Winthrop cop cars.
Winthrop, but
Yeah.
like, how does that work?
It's a shared cost. So whatever the cost is of either repairing or replacing that car is a shared cost.
So we would have to replace as the town of Winthrop, or we as the town of Monmouth would have to foot the bill for either one.
Think about just look at the number that you'd be looking at
Mhm.
and then split it 60/40.
Yeah.
So that cruiser, it gets billed back, we get back a percentage potentially in the budgeting process. So say our premiums went up because we had a crash or an injury, then that increase would be looking at it, breaking it down at a 60/40 if we go with the 60/40, just using it as an
Like,
example.
if we're going to combine everything together, is it, we're not doing it like 50/50 because of the population or because the Monmouth residents don't want that increase? Or is it a little bit of both?
Well, so we've been doing 60/40 in regards to the shared cost of our chief. And that was simply based on the fact that we have 6,000 people, they have 4,000 people. Seemed like a nice, clean division. And so,
Makes sense. Together. It's gonna, now 60/40 seems a little different when you're covering all areas. Just, and I may be way off.
well, I think,
Go ahead. Yeah,
Yeah.
please.
Like I mentioned before, is we're using 60/40 as a starting place. We have more complicated cost sharing arrangements for the ambulance service and everything else. I think that the police commission needs to work through that process, and there may be other factors that make more sense for each community. I mean, it's not like, if we do a pure 60/40 split right now, the Monmouth taxpayers are going to be subsidizing the Winthrop Police Department.
Mhm.
And that may be okay. But the fact is that stuff still needs to be worked out.
So it's just a
Yeah.
process.
It's just a starting place.
Like when we were talking about, and you might be able to answer this. So you were saying working out the benefits package. So no one wants to give up what they already have. So if you pay 100%, are we going to have to move up and pay our officers 100% of their coverage? So then that comes back to the citizens in Winthrop.
Be negotiated, yeah. Because that union will both go back to the table and say, hey,
Okay, that's, I think, where I'm, as a citizen of Winthrop, I'm feeling like, I know we have more citizens, but our costs are going to increase as we come into our tax reevaluation. And I think it's a great idea. But when you guys evaluate it, I think the 60/40, if we're combining everything as one, we need to figure that out somehow in detail. Because those are the things that are going through my head. And I just don't see how that's all going to work without one place paying more than the other for services that are shared equally.
one place will definitely pay more
it's
than
gonna
the
be,
other. It's not going to be a straight up 50/50 split.
it may represent a savings to us, depending on, we have to look at it that way.
We're already
Alright.
struggling with our insurance. So I don't see how we paying 100%, because if they pay them 100%, everybody's going to be in here and want to know why they're not getting that same thing. So I think it's just something to
We
think
offered
about.
it to them before, but it's.
All right.
So just food for thought.
Thank you, Sandy.
Couple things I wanted to speak on. One is, with Sandy's point with the workers' comp. If this is gonna, we're the fiduciary, we're gonna be carrying all the officers essentially under our workers' comp. Would that up the rates on the rest of the municipality if something was to happen? Meaning would it up the public works rates if something was to happen I know out in the real world, if anything happens, all the rates go up to all the employees.
I don't know the answer to that, Roy.
would just be
I'd have to
curious
do some
for
research on that.
I mean, I know we're not trying to look at it as Winthrop Monmouth right now, right? We're trying to look at it as one department, but the reality is if something happens, it's going to up potentially up Winthrop's workers' comp, not Monmouth's. Right? If everything's going to be under Winthrop. I'm not.
Potentially, but if they have a better safety record than us, we also benefit from that as well.
Well, do we?
Well,
Correctly?
we're aiming to be part of that SHAPE program, and so that's a rising tide that would lift all boats. So there is one chat comment. You want me to read this,
I
Shannon?
got one more comment too.
Go ahead.
Just with the cost, I mean, we're talking about costs going up. And it appears as though if we're pulling, like we talked about, Monmouth's going up with their pay to meet Winthrop, but now we're looking at Winthrop potentially going out. It looks like we're pulling everything. There's not much negotiation that we're looking at as far as the pay and benefits package for the officers. It looks like we're just pulling
I think,
of everything into one,
I think that, and
which cost per officer, I think it appears is going to go up pretty
well,
significantly.
I wouldn't make assumptions about the negotiations until the negotiations happen.
Okay,
Okay.
just
Fair,
curious.
fair.
Anything?
Correct.
Okay, so we have this chat message from one of our online participants who says, Monmouth has an existing department with an established budget. Monmouth's responsibility will increase by a 60-40 budget to a point where Monmouth will vote it down. Why spend more to come join Winthrop? Well, I would leave that to the voters of Monmouth to decide. Please, and it's worth noting that our chief is a Monmouth resident.
I personally believe that consolidation is moving this community in Monmouth in the right direction for the future, and it's the right path to take. Many communities in Maine had to shut their doors to their police departments because they didn't have the resources, i.e. personnel, applying for open positions, even though they are offering tremendous incentives. I don't want to see either one of these communities face that in the future. And by combining the PDs, it really reduces that risk going forward. Many communities that close their police doors, it's not because the community didn't support them, because they did. It's because there were no applicants applying. That the benefits were low, their pay was low, in not all cases, but in some. And I find in Monmouth and Winthrop, that's not the case. We have the support of the council. We have the support of the select board. We have the support of our communities. We recently, like I said, we recently signed that 3-year contract to help move this process along and make it more equitable when and if we do merge. I think it will allow us going forward to compete, to retain our employees. And if we lose someone, it will help us recruit future employees. And again, I'm grateful for the amount of support we get from our communities, because without our community support and the support of this council and our select board, it would make our jobs that much more difficult. And I would hope that Monmouth would at least allow us to continue going down this road in an effort to explore all these options moving forward. The budget stuff, I understand because of what the reevaluation in Monmouth and what the taxpayers are feeling. I'm no different. I'm a taxpayer in Monmouth, and my taxes went up. And I understand everybody's concern, but let's not jump to conclusions. Let's not fall into that Facebook fodder, the social media fodder. Go out there and get the facts for yourself. Let us explore those facts. Let us present those facts, and then make a decision on whether you think this is equitable and worthwhile. I think it's worthwhile based on what it will provide for our officers, the safety for our officers, the ability to work a normal shift and go home at a normal hour and have experiences with their families instead of having to work 40, 50 hours of overtime a week. And that's what happened to us in Monmouth this summer. For those of you who are not familiar, January 6th last year, Lieutenant Dana Westland was in an accident, nearly killed him. We were working shorthanded for the past 10 months. He actually came back to work the end of October. But our officers sucked it up over the summer and worked tremendous hours. And that's not safe for the officers. That's not safe for the community. And I don't want to see that happen again. And by doing this, that alleviates some of those issues.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief. We have one comment from Andy.
Very briefly, it seems to me that we have an opportunity to build something here lasting and that will benefit both communities and its employees, primarily our police officers and our citizens. And the possibility of maybe adding a third town down the road is intriguing. But the whole idea that we would have both towns working together would in and of itself help us attract and retain employees. It would be a larger organization, looked at it as a whole. And I think this is a good thing. I think it's something that we should be actively pursuing with a will. And I thank the chief, I thank Anthony, and I thank the town manager over there for getting together and pushing this.
All right. Thank you very much. Is there anyone else online? Anyone in the audience? Anything else from the council? All right. At this time, we're going to move on to the next item. Thank you very much, Chief. Thank you, Mr. Poirier, for coming in tonight. The next item on the agenda is item 167. It is the discussion and consideration of responses to a request for proposal for an aerial ladder fire apparatus. And we do have Chief Brooks here to go over that with us. Good evening.
Feeling warm up there from the police department. Thanks, Chief. So as you're aware, we've been talking for a while about the replacement of our aerial truck, which is a 2004. And a few months ago, you allowed us to put that out to bid. To be clear, we currently have a 2020, I always call it a 21, I don't know why, but I looked at the date on it. It's a 2020 Pierce engine. It has a particular body configuration that we think works extremely well. And the intent was to buy an aerial truck in the same design, to cut down on our training. So right now, if you join our fire department, I have to show you how to drive. We go out, drive the truck. I show you how to pump the truck, how to get water into the truck, send it back out. We go through, it takes several months to get a new firefighter through that process. And then once we do that, we walk around to the other side of the truck and there's our ladder truck and we start all over again. Different engines, different pumps, different tanks. Now we have to go to training them not only how to use the aerial, but how to drive the truck, how to pump the truck, how to everything. So the idea of this would, once you get used to one apparatus, you go to the other one, knobs, buttons, switches, levers, everything's pretty much the same. That was where, so we basically took the spec for our current engine and turned it into a ladder truck. They make the exact same truck as an aerial. To keep it simple, it basically has another set of wheels, another axle in the back, and it has a 105-foot ladder on the top. The pump is the same, the cab is the same, everything is the same. So that helps us somewhat with maintenance probably, but the big thing is for training of our own firefighters to get them up to speed. I would like to maybe just readdress where there's people here that may be here to talk about the ladder. Some of the concerns that I hear, I'm not a big social media guy, but one of the things that comes out consistently when we talk about a ladder truck is what is the tallest building in town? We only have one building in town that's 4 stories tall. Well, the biggest reason we go with a 105-foot ladder or a 100-foot ladder versus a shorter one is reach. We don't necessarily need to get 100 feet in the air, but we often park in the road in front of a home and have to reach 100 feet to reach the home. We can't pull on their lawn. A lot of them have a smaller driveway. So we look for reach over overall height. That said, earlier this month, this building got evacuated. The grade school had a problem with their air handling system. As you know, most air handling systems are on the roof of the building. The air handling system at the grade school, the belts let go on it, so they had smoke entering into the building. We used the aerial on this building to get onto the top of this building in order to determine exactly what was going on and that there wasn't a fire. Throwing a ground ladder, I don't think anybody here has a ladder in the garage that's going to get you to the roof of this building. It's true of all the schools. It's true of Progressive Distributors. It's true of all the buildings that are in Winata Drive. Those are all one-story buildings that are 20 feet, 25 feet in the air minimum. Hannaford, C. Caprera's, everything downtown. You're not going to throw a ground ladder downtown and get to the roof of one of those buildings. Not to mention the safety issue of it, as far as being able to work off that ladder versus our current aerial. We hook into the aerial and we can work off the aerial even if the roof is compromised. Another thing and we do use it. If you think of the more use of a metal roof. You can't climb easily onto a metal roof on a home, very icy, slippery. So we work off the aerial itself. One of the things that we also run into, there was some discussions about, well, there's less and less firefighters. Again, another argument for the aerial piece of equipment, because one person can drive, set the ladder up, and climb up on top of it. Not an ideal situation, but if I was going to throw a 35-foot ladder to get to the roof of most of these buildings I was talking about, that's really closer to a 4-person job, not a 1-person job that we could do an aerial. So those are just some of the things that we use an aerial for. We've had one since 1950. Our first ladder truck was bought the very early 1950s. So we've had one here in town for 75 years. We recently had a fire on the Maranacook Road. That particular fire had a problem with the fire got up into the ceiling. We had to climb up onto the roof of it. And I bring that up for a couple of reasons. A, if you had gone out to that, you would have seen a whole road full of engines and tankers. Every town around here has a tanker truck. Every town around here has an engine. We didn't actually use the ladder at that particular scene. I would have liked to have, but by the time when the first engine came in, the very first engine that arrived on scene came from Reedfield because it was closer to the Reedfield line, and there happened to be somebody at the Reedfield station. So they sent the truck with one guy on it, and that immediately clogged up the driveway. Started to work to open the driveway up for the ladder to go in, and I chose that it was probably going to be more work than it was worth. We just pulled the hose and tried to get going, being the deputy chief spraying water with the hose. So timing of a ladder to show up is very important. It's very hard to have a ladder come 20 minutes, 30 minutes later and have any room. We have hoses laying in the street. We have the trucks in the street. We have ambulances, police car, there's a lot of things to get there. So having the aerial coming in from a Lewiston or even an Augusta is quite a bit of a delay of time in order for that. I'm going to say that field where that aerial needs to park is most likely going to be clogged by the time it would arrive. Just a piece to think of. So, but getting a tanker or another engine is very easy. Getting a ladder, we're pretty much the only one in this area that's going to have one there rapidly. Lastly, I would also probably, the only reason we're really talking about this right now is because the truck is 48 to 50 months away. So our intent, using round numbers, would be to have 3 pieces of fire apparatus, an engine, a ladder, and a third engine or a second engine, third piece of apparatus. If the trucks are 8 years old, the oldest truck's 24 years old when you get rid of it. So we're at a point where we have a roughly almost 22-year-old truck. 4 years to get it, it's going to be 26 years old. 26 years old. Last ladder truck we had pretty much was inoperable. We had to take it out of service when it turned 31 years old. We hadn't placed it. We waited longer. We had ordered a new apparatus, but we went about 6 months without it because the truck was no longer, wouldn't pass certification. So long story short, that's normally I probably wouldn't in real times back in the day when we ordered other trucks, usually took 2 years. I wouldn't even be here for 2 more years. But because it takes 4 years to get them, we need to open up our lead time a little bit. So there are a couple of adjustments to the bid that I would like to present. The original price you got is $2,011,507. What we are suggesting from our committee, that price of that truck, we spec'd it with a Cummins diesel engine, which is what is in our current engine. They do offer what they call a PACCAR engine. PACCAR is the company that owns Kenworth and Peterbilt, so it's a large diesel truck manufacturer. Has the same warranty, 5-year internal combustion parts warranty. Originally, one of our concerns was that the Cummins engine is actually serviced by the company that's selling us the apparatus, whereas the PACCAR they can't service, but that would be Whitehead in Auburn. City of Auburn has a 1-year-old tower ladder that gets some more usage than ours does. They send it on ambulance calls. If they have an ambulance call down the street from that station, they send a $2 million ladder truck to somebody that just fell out of bed and needs to get back into bed. But long story short, the PACCAR engine is $46,408 less if we go with that option. They have had no issues with their engine, and they've also even more so had no issues with getting service done at that dealership. That's probably my bigger concern is who's going to service it, how are we going to service it. Essentially, the dealer that we would buy this off is in Auburn. Whitehead is in Auburn. I don't really see a whole big of a difference there, except that it's $46,000 cheaper for that engine. So that's one of the suggestions. The other one is our truck currently has a front suction set up on it so that we can pull water into the truck off the front of it. That was an option that we added after our first engine had that set up. We put it on the ladder truck. It's been rarely used on that piece of apparatus. So our suggestion is also to remove that from the bid that we have in front of you. So that brings us down to a new bid price of $1,946,235. Down below, you'll see a couple of other things I'm throwing at you. The front of our truck has a large circular light that spins on it that is a very big attention getter when we're coming down the road. It's right in the rear view mirror of most cars, but there are other lights that we could put on that truck that are less money. So was suggesting that the fire department, through our typical fundraising, could cover the cost of that light, which is almost $4,000, just so we can sit here and say, we're not putting any bells and whistles on this truck that we want people to pay for. And then last but not least, they gave us some options. If 120 days before we took delivery, if we put these kind of numbers to them in advance, it was actually $95,000 if we write a check tomorrow. I think we all realize that's probably not going to happen. And the town's going to do better off on interest rates and stuff like that. But this is something we could look at. We would save $30,000 by giving them some money, 120 days before we get the truck. I mean, at that point, you're buying the truck anyway. So if you do it, 4 months early, you save $30,000. So that gets us down to that number I'm giving you there of $1,913,110, which is an incredible lot of money. Prices increases are going crazy. It's one thing I should clarify with you. I came in here originally with the last conversation was that the price of this truck would go up $100,000 January 1st. That was essentially what they had told me. We clarified that. really what they were saying is that in the course of a year, the trucks go up every 3 months. So April 1st, January 1st, the truck's going to go up. April 1st, the truck's going to go up. July 1st, the truck's going to go up. The January 1st increase is $30,172. The $100,000 that they were talking is what it would go up over the course of another year. So if we waited a year from now, it would be probably at least 100, if not 120,000. But as of January 1st, the truck will go up. I didn't put that on this sheet because I got it afterwards. I got it on my way here. The actual increase January 1st will be $30,172. Which you may look at and say, well, for a couple $1 million, what's 30 grand? But normally if I walk in here and ask you for $30,000, you'd all look at me with a pretty tight eye and say, really? So one other thing I'll throw out of there, and this is totally your call, obviously your decision. I spent a lot of time here over a lot of years talking about building a new fire station. And the cost of the new fire station is about $2.2 million 7 years ago, something along that line. And we had consistently 15 to maybe 25 people that were going to be living in the streets, for lack of a better term, if we built a new fire station. And I would like to say that, or at least that was the presentation that was brought. We can't afford this. We can't do this. Our taxes won't cover this. And I get it. I pay taxes in this town and enjoy it as much as everybody else does. But look at the fire station that we still sits down there on Main Street. Would the town of Winthrop be better served by us still trying to operate out of that station versus where we are now? And yet on opening day, I had 100 people there when we opened that, talking about how great that station was and how much they enjoyed it. It's very easy to get sidetracked into the noise of a handful of people and I respect their opinion. I have no problem with that. But at the same respect, all we're trying to do here is say that we have a piece of apparatus that is nearing its end of life. It can run forever. I work on cars for a living. You can keep them going if you want to put enough money into them. Some of you have already done that sitting around the table. But it's the idea of we've done it with town dump trucks. We put tons of money in a dump truck to get another year out of it, and then we traded our way out of it. Now we're in a situation where we bought 3 dump trucks, I think, in 2 years. So somewheres down the road, we're going to have a whole bunch of dump trucks ready to be replaced again. All we're trying to do is come up with a consistent, stay one curve ahead of the day before the truck breaks down type of thing. You know, it's only going to get more expensive as time goes by. I'd like to hope we're kind of beyond the do we really need a ladder truck conversation, but I'll answer any questions anybody wants to throw.
Yeah. I'm assuming we're going to bond to pay for this.
I'm sorry?
I'm assuming we're going to bond to pay for this.
Well, that's not really a fire chief question, so.
Well, you can answer it. That's
I'll take
okay,
that.
Anthony.
So right now we have $156,000 in our fire apparatus capital reserve. So it's unlikely that we would cash fund this. I talked with our banker, John Simcoe at Androscoggin Bank, about it. He also serves as the chair of the Maine Municipal Bond Bank, and he suggested that if we proceed with the purchase of this piece of equipment, that we should look to bond it through the Maine Municipal Bond Bank because they can offer both longer terms and lower interest rates. What he also suggested is we just keep a close eye on the market and try to take out that loan as when we think the interest rate has reached its nadir. Now that's always pretty speculative. The Fed just last week reduced interest rates by a 1/4 point. The speculation is that they'll do at least one more reduction during the course of 2026. And as was mentioned during the last conversation, Nick and I are aware that we want to try to keep the budget as flat as we possibly can going into the revaluation and coming out of the revaluation. So if there's a silver lining to having a 4-year wait for a fire truck, that could be it, is we could wait until after FY '28 to make our first payment on the financing of this piece of equipment.
Oh, Anthony,
Does that answer your question?
Get in the ballpark. 4 years from now, we have to take out a bond. We put in the initial 120 grand, whatever it is, the early payment. Okay, then we have to pay this. We take the bond out. The bond is 5%. What's our monthly payment for how long?
Well, Andy, that depends upon the interest rate and the term.
I just said the bond is 5%. I need a
I'm not going to
ballpark,
do
okay?
that. I'm not going to do the math off the top of my head here sitting
Well,
at
we
this
need-
table.
I mean, I can't vote positively unless we have some sort of figure to kind of hope for.
Okay. I would have needed a little bit more time than just like hit me up at this table to try to make that calculation.
Okay, I'm not trying to roast your embarrass you. I'm sorry. Just,
I know.
I'd like that number eventually.
Hi, Dan. What size was the last ladder truck that we did get rid of when we bought the new one in 2004?
Was it?
Yeah,
I'm sorry?
what size was the truck?
It was a 100-foot ladder.
It was a 100-foot one too as well?
Yeah.
What, and I understand and I appreciate you explaining everything, the reason why you need it. And I do understand that because I understand math. So what would the cost for the next size truck down? Just curiosity. Rough ideas. I'm not pinning you to anything. Just
Jeez. I don't know. There are, so I guess it gets back to how important, and it's much more important to me than it is to you, as far as having a piece of apparatus that is identical to the piece of apparatus we have.
understood. No.
I'm not going to argue that the piece of apparatus that we have is going to be more expensive than, I mean, you can always find some, it's like a mattress
Sure.
or a tire. You can always find a cheaper one.
Sure.
They don't make this model truck
Okay. So
less than 105 foot.
okay. That answers that
They do
portion of the
make,
question.
they do make one that's 107 foot, but that doesn't obviously help us any.
No. And my other quick question, I guess, being here and speaking for the kind of the taxpayers and talking through with this, looking at some of our numbers, I mean, the truck's 20 years old now that we have.
22, yep.
So, and we pay X dollars to maintain that every year.
Absolutely.
If we took out a 20-year bond, we would be still paying on that truck and still maintaining it at X dollars in that 20 years from now.
So traditionally, what we've tried to do is take like a 7-year loan because we were buying a truck every 7 years. That
Okay.
was the goal we were
Okay.
trying to get to. I've actually said with 3 trucks, you could bump that to like 8 years to get you to 24, to
Okay.
try to stay in that range. If you go 20 years, you're exactly right.
Yeah, well, just looking at some of the proposals that, you guys, that the bank offered, a 20-year note, and I'm like, okay, well, that might help, but geez, but then we'd be making the payment still and then the trucks.
The theory was to also try to keep it that you're only paying for one truck at a time. You pay
Understood.
one off
That makes
before you
sense.
start the next one.
Yeah, makes sense.
And Jim, to be fair, even though the Maine Municipal Bond Bank offers a term of that
may
length,
not get it.
I wouldn't recommend that.
Yeah, no, I understand. All right, that just, some of the questions popped in my head. Thank you.
Hi, Dan. I'm just got a few questions here about the RFP and the is Allegiance the only company that offers this brand of truck, or
Correct. Yeah.
they're the only ones that sell them?
In the Northeast, they are the dealer. No different than there's only one Chevy dealer in Augusta or one GMC truck dealer. They have an area, and Allegiance covers Maine, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, and I think Vermont.
Okay. I haven't been following it, and I'm just kind of curious if
That's
you
fine.
have there was some Congress testimony from these fire truck manufacturers going on, back a month or so ago, a couple months ago.
It's been ongoing for a little while, yeah.
Have you followed that at all and find out what's going on? Because that is directly the questioning that I was following was targeting their predatory,
So I can't say that I know all the details. My understanding is that Pierce was not involved with that part of it. It was more that they were looking at a company called the Rev Group that bought out lots of other fire truck manufacturers and started to kind of corner their own markets, so that in the name of consolidation, instead of having 4 different manufacturers building 4 different cabs, they made one cab and sent it out to 4 different places. So that when people started to try to bid this truck versus that truck, they're technically made by the same company, same stuff. And so that, I think, is where more of the lawsuit has come out. And part of it is, since COVID, the timeline to get trucks, the price to get trucks. Essentially what's happened, to boil it down, everybody knows they got to buy a fire truck. They're going up every 3 months. The quicker I can buy one, the better off I'm in. And now they're flooded with purchases, which has dragged them out to double the amount of time it takes to get them. So just real quick, my other understanding is that if that whole lawsuit thing went through, it would be retroactive back. As a matter of fact, our truck that we bought in 2020 might even be included in that, if Pierce was included and the dates were all that. It would basically be a kickback is what it would be. I don't really know how far that's progressed, where it is. I know there's been congressional testimony on it. There's lawsuits on it, but we're going to move at the speed of Congress here at this point, I think.
What I was watching was in a nutshell, I guess they were using the fact of pushing it out in order to get more money up, get people to buy in for more money for shorter time frames, is essentially what I saw a couple days that I watched some of it. I had a couple other questions here. What do we got? So it's not possible to open, that's the reason why we only got one bid, correct?
I would say so. I mean, I sent the bid out to several different manufacturers, and it was posted and whatever. Farmington just put out a bid for a new aerial truck, and and they had spec'd it very similar to the way he did, because they have the exact same situation that we have going on. They're trying to match their engine, blah, blah, blah. And they did get a bid from another manufacturer, but it didn't meet any of the specifications because it's not the same piece of apparatus. I just don't, I mean, I could sit here for an hour and explain to you why we're doing this, but I don't want to get into all the technical weeds of it. But this particular truck is it is a specific truck, but we bought it because, and I could show you if you looked at them, it has way more compartment space, way more ability to haul equipment, which is the hardest thing we try to do, is figure out what pieces might we need at this or at that. And that's the design of the truck, was made specifically for this. And even though they're the only one, I just noticed they hit a milestone of selling 4,000 of these. So it's not like I'm buying something that nobody else in America owns. There's over 4,000 of these nationwide. It's just the design of it is to be very cargo space specific. It's the same length as the other engine, the 99 that we have, but I don't remember what it is, but it has almost half again as much cargo space without taking away from the pump or anything else, because that's the design of the truck.
Oh,
for whatever that's worth.
The other questions I had, I guess, revolved around any sort of interlocal agreement with other communities. I mean, I'm still stuck on the fact that we have a situation where we are bringing this truck, whether it's, known that it's needed right up front. We have a truck that is 22 years old and it's supposed to have a lifespan of 30 years, is kind of what I'm gathering.
Possibly, yeah.
What would the lifespan of the new truck have?
Generally, like, I think you probably wouldn't argue with me on that. I mean, you probably wouldn't agree with me on this, but the lifespan of a car today is a lot longer than it used to be years ago. I mean,
I
people
agree.
used to trade cars at 50,000 miles. Now they buy them at 150 or 200 to go longer, but they have a lot more electronics, computers. So that's where your costs are continually to rise to fix apparatus. It theoretically should last longer, but its cost of that type of stuff becomes, we get a lot more service lights on. We get a lot more that's kind of what we're running into with this truck since the day we bought it, but even a little more so recently. Lots of lights come on, dash things come on, and
So you're saying you're expecting a shorter lifespan on this one?
No, I just think it's a more complicated lifespan. The truck itself will last longer, but it's got more idiosyncrasies to them. All of them do when it comes to, service. You can't just, nothing against you, but you can't just drive it down to your place and say, make that aerial work like it's supposed to. It takes a lot of technology sometimes to make that stuff work. That's why, to me, serviceability is a concern, because we want to make sure that we can keep the thing on the road. So.
How about, again, I want to touch back on this interlocal agreement. Is there any have you reached out to any of the other communities, or have we just kind of understood that they're not interested in helping us pitch?
No, I actively reached out to other communities, and only Augusta was even interested in having a discussion.
Okay. Can we pursue that a little more as far as,
Well, what am I supposed to do?
strong arming them? Well,
Drag them into a room and.
what you're supposed to do is, if we're putting $2 million into a truck that everybody else is putting 600,000 into, our truck shouldn't be showing up at their, if they're not willing to work with us.
Okay, I'm gonna let Dan talk about the vagaries of mutual aid.
One of the things you have to understand, Maranacook Road, we have a house fire. We start, our automatic mutual aid is Monmouth, Manchester start same time as us, and Augusta comes to provide an emergency rescue crew. I actually held up Augusta. It was probably a bad idea, but from the reports I was getting, it sounded like we weren't going to do a lot of interior work, and it was exactly the opposite. Once they said it was fully involved, police officers fully involved, I started 5 more towns, Lakes region, to provide water. They shuttled water from the hydrant at Dave's Appliance down here on Central Street back and forth with a half dozen fire trucks running all the water back and forth. So I guess I look at it that you say, they should pay us for our $2 million ladder truck. Every one of those towns should pay us money. Well, if that's true, you say that truck's $600,000. Very true. But I got to buy 6 towns worth of $600,000, because I had Reedfield there, I had Monmouth there, I had Manchester there, I had Mount Vernon there. I had all those towns bringing me water. So we start to get into this half dozen of one, 6 of the other. Is it cheaper for me to buy that? Or do I buy all their tanker trucks? Again, just a quick step, and I don't want to step outside our bounds. You heard we had quite a conversation just a minute ago about trying to consolidate 2 police departments that work hand in hand and share a chief, and how much you started to get this, well, you're going to pay this and they're going to pay that and we're going to pay this. And there's been conversation here about, why don't we join all the fire departments together? Not going to do it in 4 years, I can tell you that. But I get where you're going with that, but they're also going to ask the same of us.
Yeah.
If they're going to ask me for a ladder, I'm going to ask 5 towns for 5 tankers. I'm not sure.
So I'd like to speak to this briefly. I did receive 2 letters from a resident, Gil Susi, and I do want to acknowledge those. Unfortunately, he's not able to attend tonight. Did request that we just consider tabling this to another night. However, to contribute to the conversation, he did outline a couple of the things that Chief Brooks has already mentioned, including the relatively few multi-story structures. The substantial portion of residential houses are 1-story. Numerous properties, particularly season homes, have narrow camp roads. And that's one thing that I could note and say to that. But for the structures, you did mention that it's not necessarily vertical height, but also horizontal to go over. And that's also including the pumper on it to aim down at fires. And I did see that recently in a photo of a fire out in Leeds of the apparatus over and pointed down. And so when we start looking at that mutual aid agreements, it was proposed that we start reaching out to Lewiston or Augusta for mutual aid from them. But I could understand that the response time would probably be a lot longer. And then they could also probably start charging us for the cost of that. Winthrop currently serves as, has like a mutual aid agreement for a lot of the communities in the surrounding area. And in Gil's letter, he also outlined that Freeport was a relative town. And I did notice that you also put that in your memorandum here, Chief Brooks, that last year they secured a 10-year, $1.5 million bond for 4.03%. I did actually reach out to the Freeport town manager today, and I spoke with her just briefly on that experience. She said that they had a 28-year-old truck, and upon inspection, the entire frame was rusted out and their hydraulic system for the ladder needed to be replaced. Chief Brooks has come in here last February and ever since my first budget process on the council 3 years ago and presented that to us that they're looking at a $2 million ladder truck. So every budget process, I've been expecting this. And so last year we allocated $150,000 into our capital reserve. Kind of pennies in the bucket for this kind of cost, but he did include the evaluation form on here and a lot of noted deficiencies on things that need to be replaced on our truck. And then also in that conversation with the Freeport town manager, she did mention that, you know, just last year at the 1.5 million is already increased another 300,000 just this year. So when we start looking at the costs, I mean, we could look another 4, 5, 10 years, but the costs are only going to continue to go up. And so if we start looking at some kind of financing, we don't want to burden the taxpayers with any higher costs. We do understand that there's a revaluation. And as far as the cost of the revaluation, we also started putting towards that during capital reserves last year, but understanding that that will have an impact on taxpayers. We will be conscious as a council of what that will do. And so I think that I'd much rather start looking at options for financing now rather than after the revaluation because it's only going to go up. So, I mean, I've been consistently appreciative that Chief Brooks has brought this to our attention. And so I have everything here. And he did mention February 3rd of 2025 this year. He presented to us and talked about selling engine 2, selling engine 3, and purchasing another ladder truck to replace those two. And so I'm supportive of this. I would just like to find a good route of financing if we can.
And to that point, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Dan, but if you guys decide to move forward with this, lock in the price, we don't have to make payments until delivery. And so even you'll be locking in the price, which, as you said, Shannon, isn't going to go down. Quite the opposite. But then it allows us then to look forward to financing it, perhaps after the revaluation, unless we just see like interest rates just hit like rock bottom over the next 2 or 3 years.
What would the piece of that look like? Return till we pay. Did he mention that?
Yes, I mean, what he said is if we see interest rates just bottom out, go ahead and take out the loan and then invest those until it's time to make the first payment. But you, as I mentioned in the memo, you do make 2 payments a year. You make 2 interest payments and you make 1 principal payment per year. And you'll have to forgive me, Aaron. Nick would know this off the top of his head. I do not. I don't know what our current interest earnings are just on our, things other than our trust accounts. 5%. I don't know that it eclipses 5% at this point. No. But what we have done consistently is we're constantly checking between Androscoggin and Northeast Bank to see who's offering the better rate. It has been Androscoggin until very recently, and so we very recently moved some money into investments with Northeast Bank. So we're checking on that like on a monthly basis just to make sure we're maximizing our interest earnings.
Yeah, I apologize. I tried to get a hold of Nick today too. We had a vehicle accident. By the time we cleared that and I tried to get a hold of Nick, I just missed him. So I did intend on giving some idea of that type of thing, what the long term would look like financially, and I missed that. One of the things I did mention, we can talk during the budget period. $150,000 is great as far as throwing some money in there. Again, you can wait a year, but essentially that $150,000 is gone because that's what the truck's going to go up. So if you want to wait or wait even to April 1st, it's going to cost you $30,000 to do that. If that's a good investment of 30 grand, again, those are your kind of decisions. But the money that we've thrown at this so far has been out of surplus. If during the budget process, we could come up with even $25,000 or something that's in the tax rate, then that means in 4 years when we go to borrow money, or 3 years, whatever, part of that payment is already in the mill rate. And it helps offset it two ways. A, you're putting some money aside, even if it's a small amount. And B, you're already taking a chunk off the payment because it's already in our mill rate, if you follow what I'm saying. So I think the advantage, as the town manager said, of having a few years to have to pay for this is it gives us some of those options. But again, that's all on your thoughts.
We just have a question from James and then one from Andy.
Dan, Shannon pointed out back in February, talked about you reducing the fleet. Is that still something you want to do or going?
Well, I think that makes the long-term sense. The engine that we have now really isn't worth much money, but it has some value to us, especially when we have two apparatus out at the same time, which doesn't happen a lot, but it does happen from time to time. There's a lot of calls that we handle with a pickup truck, but obviously there's certain things we can't use a pickup truck for. A lot of things we can't use a pickup truck for, but there's some we do. So we try to use the newest, least expensive piece of equipment for the individual call. Go out and cut a tree, we send the pickup truck. House on fire, that truck doesn't usually move very far. So we try to do that, but I think in the long run, if you try to talk about consolidations, things like that, as a matter of fact, we're setting up a meeting with Monmouth and Manchester next month for us to continue to work on that stuff. As a side note, I think long run, we don't need. When I joined the fire department, we had 6 fire trucks. Now we have 4 and a pickup truck. I think 3 in a pickup truck is just as sufficient. I don't see any advantage to getting rid of the engine we have now at this point today, but as part of this whole operation, yes.
That's what I'm considering is part of my thoughts is, to your point, when you talked about reducing that fleet, then it's not another truck we have to replace because it's kind of just adding it to this other truck, which then you'd have to replace.
Really where the conversation came from is the oldest truck in the fleet is the reserve engine. So I came to the previous town manager and said, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me to replace this old engine when we have a ladder truck that at the time we were spending a lot of money on. The last year has been pretty good, but we got hit a couple of years in a row with spending a lot of money on the ladder truck. I said, my thought is let's just forget about that engine and essentially get rid of it when it dies or whatever, and let's concentrate on replacing the ladder truck instead. And that's how we kind of went from, let's not buy another brand new engine and still need a ladder truck in a few years. Let's move the ladder truck purchase up so we're not waiting until it's beyond its
Would you
lifespan.
imagine, my last quick question?
Yeah.
And again, this is not holding you to anything. Would you imagine that old aerial truck we have now be worth something to somebody or to another department at some point when we do take delivery, if we do go forward and do order a new one?
Well, I was kind of surprised that the last two apparatus brought us $7,000 or $8,000 when we sold fire trucks for $1,000 all the time. So there's probably a little value to that. Our current ladder truck, even in 4 years from now, if we don't run it completely into the ground by trying to keep it 10 years, is probably could very well be worth $50,000 or something like that. Kind of still, again, a drop in the bucket to these numbers, but that's not figured in
Yeah,
here.
no, that's what I'm thinking. All right, thanks.
So that's really where it came from, was why replace an older engine and then try to get another 15 more years out of a ladder truck that's never going to make it. Let's just roll our concerns into the new ladder and let's let that engine go by the wayside.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Dan, if the ladder truck gets shut down because the ladder no longer passes inspection, can, for the time being, we use it as a truck without a ladder?
Yes, that's what we did the
Okay.
last time.
All right.
To be clear, I want to be very clear. I'm not here saying our ladder truck's not going to make it another year. But if it takes 4 years to replace it, it's not something that's going to happen overnight. And we don't want to be in that mode where we need to go try to find a truck really fast or that type of thing.
Right. And
it's going to hurt more.
And we want to try to avoid dumping a ton of money into keeping that truck going and end up buying a new one anyway. The other thing is I kind of think maybe Shannon was intimating this, but if we keep playing this game like the truck costs this much now, and let's postpone it till we get a good interest rate, and then the truck costs that much more, we're just chasing our tails. At some point, we need to make a decision and just watch over the next couple of years till delivery time and pick the best interest rate we can. And if we get a high one, we can always sell the bond and start again.
Do the best you can between now and that
Right.
point. This way, the idea is you can keep putting money aside, but until you lock in a price, it's eroding as fast as you go.
All right, thanks, Dan, for all this information. First question I have is, have you reached out or in recent conversations, or I guess, have you had a purposeful conversation with the chief of Monmouth and Manchester, at least on prioritizing or what they're looking at or needing for equipment over the next 10 years?
So honestly, our first conversation is to try to work better with our accountability so that when we all arrive on the scene, how are we going to account for each other? We all kind of have the same system, but we don't use it exactly the same way. So that was really going to be step one. Step two is we would like to put some sort of training together, whether it be once a month or 3 times a year, 4 times a year, have a regular training night where all 3 departments work together. I sponsored, or I decided to take on, really myself, a firefighter 1 and 2 program this year that included Monmouth. And it pays, just like the police department said here, it pays huge dividends. We know them. We know some of them. They know some of us. We know some of their equipment better. They know some of it. It's logical, and it's easy to just say, well, that takes a little more work to drive over to Manchester this weekend than it is to stay in Winthrop. But we work together so much, that's where we want to start. They would like to go further than that and include some other communities, but we're going to start with the 3 of us right now. And we're starting with accountability and training, and probably, I don't think it will be very far down the road before we start talking about aligning equipment type things together. But that's still a little ways.
Yeah, I mean, so I've had personal conversations with members of both departments, and every time I've talked to, they seem very interested in aligning planning for equipment moving forward to make sure that they're not going to be getting something that we already have versus Monmouth getting something that Manchester or whatever. So that way we're prioritizing the right needs. Obviously, in this setting, we're the only community that's going to be getting a ladder truck. So that obviously doesn't necessarily apply here.
But if we get rid of a ladder truck and an engine, then we just became more reliant on mutual aid towns for more engines, tankers, so it is all interconnected.
Be more important to be on the same page.
Absolutely.
So with that said as well, I mean, I would have liked to have seen probably a bid that didn't include a truck that would have aligned perfectly with what we had already, just so I could yes, is it worth, if it come in, it probably wouldn't have, right? Come in at
I
like
think
one
that
point.
if it matters to you, I think the Farmington bid that they said was almost $200,000 less, not
Okay,
quite.
so that's what
Like $190,000 less. And it was a truck that didn't meet any of the specs
Okay,
that they
perfect.
wanted.
That would have been helpful. Yeah, for sure.
And Aaron, when we went into this process, the chief had told me we can probably expect to get a bid from a vendor that doesn't meet the specs at all, but will be at a lower price. And it's sort of a Weasley way of trying to convince elected bodies to go with something that they didn't actually bid on because it is a lower price.
Gotcha. All right. And then did we expend any of that $150,000 this year for, no, okay.
No, we have.
Just because there wasn't a need or we just,
We had, we got some pretty good size repairs going right now. The ladder truck is going in for a bunch of front end work. I don't have an exact number on that yet. I keep going back and forth with them. So we're going to be over in our maintenance budget this year, but not to any kind of number that I think we need to tap.
I want you to do the maintenance, so don't worry about that.
No, I get that.
Okay, that's pretty much what I had to say.
Aaron, I texted Nick, and so right now, just on our operating accounts with Androscoggin, we're earning around 3.35%. And we have some CDARs locked in with Northeast, that's at 4.08%.
Yeah, I only want to ask if everyone here read Guile Soucy's letter. He made some good counterpoints. Not standing for it or against it, but I think he made some good counterpoints. It's important that we look at.
And if I could make one more comment to
You
that
can
too, if, again, I don't want to get into the weeds, but one of his comments was, we don't have a lot of people during the day. Well, Town of Winthrop is a little bit of an anomaly. I have more people available to me most of the time, Monday through Friday during the day. We have a member that works here for the town. We have several businesses in town. We had a car accident day. I had 11 people there. Structure fire on a Friday night. Different factors come into on a Friday night. I had 9. So we generally do better Monday through Friday than we necessarily do. 2:00 in the morning, somebody's smoke detector's going off. And pretty much me or one of the other chiefs are usually the only one there. So as an anomaly, we tend to do better Monday through Friday than we do during the day, just for a piece of information. I took that obviously he doesn't know my personal department very well, because we've known that for quite a while, that we actually do better when everybody else doesn't, but that's just us. So I make that point because he made that point, so.
Any other questions or comments? Zach?
Quick one. Thanks for putting this together. So if we go with the $100,000 less option, so that's something you'd have to go back and they have to do a new RFP for it, and then
No.
Okay, so okay.
When we went back and forth between the bids, we were trying to decide what engine to spec in the truck, and the truck we have now is a Cummins, blah, blah, blah. And he said, you could have a PACCAR, you could have a Cummins. And we're like, well, what's the difference? He goes, well, the PACCAR is less expensive. So we bid it as to match the truck we have. It's actually a little bit bigger engine than the truck we have because it's a ladder, but we matched it the same. Then I said, can I get a price for the difference? And I was a little bit, I was figuring it was $20,000. And it's $46,000.
Yeah. And so that I didn't, maybe I missed it, but it was like a 350-page proposal, which, it was nice to read through. Was there a date where it becomes invalid? Like, is it January 1st for this year?
The price changes January 1st.
It does, okay.
By $30,000.
So,
and there is, I will say, there is a small clause in there that if the Armageddon happens, or basically if the price index goes to this massive number, the number could change, but I'm told that's only happened twice since World War II. So I don't think I lose a lot of sleep over that,
Price based on a Detroit.
but that's a standard clause that's through all of them. There is a buying group that we bought the last truck through that saved us, I think, like $7,000. I haven't included that in it because I haven't reached out to that group yet. So.
Right, so we'll go ahead and close this conversation. Thank you very much, Chief Brooks. And I will open it up if there's a suggested motion or if there's a motion.
I'd like to table this because I need to get some more, I need to do some more and based on the new numbers that he's got here. So that's my motion is to table this until the next meeting.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All right, discussion.
Does this, you had mentioned April before, but you're saying January 1st.
What I'm saying is that it's January 1st, I don't know that it's January 1st, but
How long is
second,
it
third, whatever. It's
number
gonna
good
go up
for?
30,172 is
So
in
this number
January.
1.9, if we went with the lowest here with without the road array or with the PACCAR.
So what I would say is if, and I understand there's a motion on the table. The price that you should be focused on right now is the 1946235, because those other savings are based upon making those payments at that particular time.
Was there a mention of a
So,
light?
and
Is that one of these? That spinning light? Was that one of these?
No,
lot of
so let
Transfer.
me say it this way. We're proposing to sign a contract for 1946235, and that will go up $30,172 the beginning of January. And then it will go up roughly another $30,000 the beginning of April. That's what I was saying. And then another $30,000 3 months. It's going to go up every 3 months. So 1946235 is what we would sign a contract for. The other savings that I have down below is what we could save for some other means. And that will change by 30,172 by the next meeting.
okay, that's what we needed to know. So you're saying by tabling it, it will be an increased inflated price.
Unless
Another 30.
we decided to have a special meeting before the end of the year.
Uh-huh. I mean, I'm looking at this.
New
Calendar.
Year's Eve party
Right.
that we do get a band. Sorry, no.
That's not even, it's, so we would get.
In the suggested motion, I would include maybe selling engine 2 and truck 3 as a relation to that.
I'd look to the chief for that. You
I'm
wanna-
sorry?
So looking at the suggested motion on the table or on the paper here with the purchase of an aerial ladder, instead of the 2,011,507, it would be 1,946,235.
Correct.
But could we add in a stipulation that selling engine 2 and truck 3 to ensure and we're not just replacing, but we're consolidating?
That is completely up to you. That's completely up to you. My thought was,
I'd be subject to
then
that.
if engine 2 all of a sudden needs, I mean, the engine burns a little bit of oil, but we don't use it that much. But I mean, if that truck all of a sudden needed $50,000 worth of work for like a pump or something, we're not going to do it. But so totally, I guess I don't have an issue if that's in the emotion. The ladder truck's going to go anyways, and you want the engine to go with it. It's going to be whatever it is, 35 years old.
Well, I was just
gonna be
looking at what was
30
proposed
years old.
in February. So if we went with
Yeah.
that, we're consolidating, we're minimizing our apparatus that we're responsible for. And we're also using mutual aid more responsibly with other towns, expecting them to show up on site.
Could we request that would it be the town manager of say Monmouth and Manchester? They're our closest mutual aid.
There are automatic aid. Yep.
Could we request that we have they come for a discussion regarding this? I seriously think I would like to see some pressure to contribute to this.
I think that you'd have the same exact results. I mean, when I talked to that Freeport town manager, she explained the exact same thing with the mutual aid responsibilities between other towns, just as far as who has what apparatus and can show up to different things. Understanding that the ladder truck may not be able to go down camp roads because it's too big, especially there was a structure fire in Wayne last week, and that fire truck certainly wouldn't be able to get down that dead end camp road. But you can get some of the smaller pumper trucks down there, and so just looking at
Yeah,
that, again,
actually, if I can clarify.
Yeah.
If they didn't set the porta tank up where they did, all the apparatus would have made it down that road. It goes down a lot more roads than, it doesn't go down every one of them. I get you that. But it goes down a lot of them. So, but anyways,
But yeah,
I'm with you.
So it sounds like there's some discussions to be had on expectations of seeing rival set up.
off topic,
I think
Well, yeah, that's obviously,
that's some of the.
talking about mutual aid responsibilities. Yeah.
that wouldn't probably happen in downtown Winthrop, but where it was closer to another community, they kind of jumped the gun on us a little bit. And
So on the motion right now is to table.
That's the current.
Pass. So you're saying for sure, this gets passed in January, it's going to be an additional 30,000.
Yeah.
That's right from Pierce or from the.
that's from the
Alliance.
manufacturer.
That's not negotiable.
I mean, I just,
That wouldn't be negotiable if we decided to pass it in January.
I can ask, but I doubt it. I mean, I've asked this question 42 times. We had a price increase in October, or November, whatever. Just in the time that we've been talking about this, there was a price increase. So that one was a relatively smaller one, but I mean, I think it went up it was probably the $11,000 is what it went up since we started trying to bid
Before
this.
like 2.2.
What's that?
Thought we had a quote before of like 2.2.
No, we've never had a quote. I was working on
Expectations at 2.
185 is where I was, but it's gone up, but nothing goes down.
Any other discussion?
Understand that.
So the motion is to table this discussion. All in favor? All opposed? Back?
Yeah, I guess.
Okay, so motion fails.
Make a motion to just do the meeting like next week so we could have all more time. Just like, can we make the call now to do that?
You,
be on the 22nd.
I mean, I would do it, but it's,
I guess what would we accomplish? What would we be looking to accomplish?
well, it give us the time to, Roy wanted more time anyways, and we kind of compromise there. We can all do our homework and then we come, and that the expectation is that we make a decision that day. And Linda's here, right? And in theory, right?
The only thing I would ask is if you did that I get a list of specific questions.
Yeah.
I mean, because we could go another week and come back and you're still going to have that same.
like, yes, that's my concern. I mean, we have this discussion, this presentation from February 3rd. Like I said, it was in the first budget presentation when I was on the council 3 years ago. We've talked about this. It's not like it just came up. So I think this is something that's been projected.
Oh, yeah, that's why I think this year is important, but.
All right, the chair will entertain a motion. Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the purchase.
Andy, the
1.94.
I'll second. All in favor? All opposed? All right. Motion fails. All right. So
Yeah, I'd like to look at some stuff.
What I'm really like, and I apologize, I probably should have asked this question, is really what would a payment structure look like? What do we just something in my head, because I'll put it this way. I know we're going to reevaluate, right? Everybody knows a reevaluation is coming and everyone's kind of freaked out about that. And I also campaigned on it. Like I've tried, if we reevaluate, people are kind of nervous about it, that maybe we could drop the mill rate. So we're not going to stay level. We're going to bring it down so people don't feel the effects. I mean, some people are going to go up, obviously. And some people, we're trying to negotiate that, but adding this cost to it is a bit of a concern to me for the taxpayers. I mean, that's the only reason. I'm not saying these guys don't need it. I'm not saying it's not a useful piece of equipment. So I just trying to figure out what would it cost structurally payments, and I'm not tying anybody to this, but what would it look like if we're going to budget this thing out for 7 years, 8 years?
Okay, but part of that is also going to depend upon how much are we going to pay up front? I mean, we know we have $156,000 in the capital reserve.
Sure.
I'm anticipating
Last year in the capital reserve.
150.
So we could do
And
that
so-
this year again.
And so I'm anticipating over the next 4 years that we'll add to that.
Yeah.
But we can't tell how much that will be. It will depend upon how much of a budget surplus we have each year, and or what is the council's comfort level with raising and appropriating tax dollars, as Dan suggested, to help build that capital reserve. So that's the first component that you have to have is it's like buying a car or a house. What's your down payment? And then it's a matter of what's your term. That has a level of what is the council's comfort with that, because you could have a longer term, pay more interest, lower payment, or you could have a shorter term in order to minimize the amount of interest that you're paying.
If we were to put 150,000 over the next 4 years, we would be paying for this 4 years from now or 3 years from now?
Yeah.
Basically, the last two trucks we got, they drive it on the lot, say, have a nice day, and about 2 days later, you get a bill in the mail to be paid. So it would be essentially, you don't owe a penny until it arrives.
Yeah, but in this instance,
You have to accept the truck. It's what we wanted. You did it right. We accept it, and then they give
And
you
to
a
Roy's
bill.
point though, if we put $150,000 for each year, and that would be 600,000.
750. If
750.
Again,
50 now.
which makes a lot of sense, except that does you no good until you lock in the price.
Understand, but still.
You know what I'm saying? Because the price, if you say, oh, geez, we can save some money, raise some money between now and then, the price is going up.
No, I get that. I just want, I guess my reasoning for tabling, Dan, was just to kind of see what would it, if we were, the probable questions, what if we were to save this, and this is what we put down and had this for savings, and then we would have to pay at this price. At 8 years, what would that payment look like? So now we're talking for $700,000 off of that. So we're looking at 1.2 roughly. What's that going to be?
Well, I'm not in theory. I'm just thinking right now, we have the reval is going to be in FY28. It's active, right? And this will show up, it's 26. So it's going to show up. We're going to have 2 years kind of.
29 or 30.
So we're going to have 2 years of budget cycles prior to when the payments technically due. Is that my understanding? Am I saying all right? Like, do we have?
No, it depends upon when we would take out the loan, because we would make the first payment the year after we take out the loan. So if we saw interest rates, what we thought bottomed out in 2028, we'd make the first payment in 2029.
Yeah, I understand. I'm just saying that, so you're going to have a $2 million cost added in. It's built in on some level, whether it's in payment or whether it's cash or a difference of the two in one of those years' budgets.
Yes.
And we're making that decision now. I'm just trying to make sure that we're not
Well, to
doing it
make-
the same year. That way we have to just make it up, right? When the revals go up.
So to make the numbers easy, if you say January 1st, 2026, we order the truck, 48 months to 50 months, we're not going to see the truck until January of 2030.
Yeah.
And then if you take out your loan, you're not going to make a payment till 2031.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I'm just
That
thinking about,
counts.
yeah, I get what you're saying.
The same
No,
thing.
yeah, I'm just trying to,
Didn't know that. So 3 for 8 years, 4%, around $160,000 a year. If we had 1.3, so if we had put away $150,000 initially, that would essentially keep it virtually flat throughout the next.
Well, shouldn't we put away the payment amount so that way we're not having to make an adjustment?
yeah, that's what I'm, yeah.
It'd be pretty close.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're close. We might as well bump it up to the 160 so that way there's no adjustment. We leave it that way.
Yeah.
Real quick, so we're locked into like this apparatus from here on out. Like,
Yeah, once you sign the paperwork, you own it.
no, I mean, you want this style, you want this truck, meaning you're only gonna get bids from Alliance moving forward. For the most part, because every truck's, this is what you're Have your equipment's going to be adapted to this style of truck, correct?
Operationally, it makes the most sense. It's not because I like the color. It's not because I like the salesman. It's because it's identical to the truck, our newest truck. It's identical to that truck. So operationally, it makes the most sense. Here's another little simple thing, and just to answer that, is our current truck, you pump it in neutral. If you actually put it into drive, the truck will go down the road. All our other trucks pump and drive. In other words, as soon as you put in pump gear, it can't drive. So if one of our people are used to using the other trucks and they use this one wrong, they literally drive down the road while they're trying to pump. So the idea is to try to standardize some of those little things another
Do you
step.
get any loyalty bonus?
I'm sorry?
Do you get any loyalty points with this deal?
These guys are
That's
selling
gonna
so
be-
many fire trucks. I don't think they could care if we ever ordered one or not, to be honest. But they're very effective. They help. They'll do whatever they can for us. But essentially, we're just the town of Winthrop. If you want to buy 20 of these, we can probably work out a much better deal. But for where we are right now, we asked for this. This is what we got. As a matter of fact, I told them if it was $2 million, you wouldn't buy it. And they came back at $2,011,000. So they're not listening to anything I'm telling them. So that's why we came up with some savings.
I mean, I want to see the math. The math's not mathing out for me right now. And it's hard because that's where I'm struggling with
Just-
it. So
Just did. Calculate. Is 4% a realistic rate? Do you know?
Yeah,
4% is a realistic rate.
you said what, this four got 3.5?
4%. So we
Yeah.
and 150.
Yeah. Freeport was 4.03.
The next 4 years, that leaves us 0.2. Finance 8%.
we keep it.
12 years.
We make a motion with that, like that as a stipulation.
Well, let's not get that far ahead of ourselves. I understand, but we shouldn't put that into a motion because who knows what.
No, that's fine. That's why I asked. So I mean,
If we have 150 now and we continue to put 100 or 150 a year until the truck comes, we're only going to owe
without,
a 1.5 and we'll have to bond it. And nobody will get stuck on the second floor and roasted.
I think it just comes down to prioritizing. Last year's fiscal year 26 capital reserves from the fund balance, we had $1.696 million that we allocated towards capital reserves. I'd be happy to relook at, paving. I'm always a big fan of repaving, but we allocated $525,000 towards that. And we've made a couple of additions, I think. But we're not going to be paving till the spring. So maybe we readjust next year and reallocate. But
Yeah, I mean, we anticipate having a budget surplus. I don't think it'll be 1.6 million. Again, because that was essentially 2 years worth of a surplus.
Just to clarify, I just made a quick call to my representative and I said January 6th for an answer because the 5th would be your next council meeting and he can't guarantee that. He said it's possible. Did definitely say it's possible, but that's over his pay range.
Saying there's a chance.
It's a chance.
Madam Chair, if, I guess in the future, just a future point, if we have a discussion with this amount of capital, I need to see the numbers that are going to play out over the budget timeline before I could make a decision. Like, I mean,
But
we're doing
Aaron,
it now.
But Aaron, I just don't know how we're going to come up with that without knowing exactly how much, like saying we're going to put away $150,000 for the next 3 years. Sounds great, but we got to actually wait to see what happens in,
It's fine, but I still
Yeah,
need
but
to
still,
see.
we're planning for ahead right now, though, right? We're planning 5 years out. Why wouldn't we account for the math now? You know what I mean?
Because we,
Walk into 150 in 2 years.
This might not be
okay,
accounted
okay,
for.
but how am I supposed to know what the term is going to be? Because you're all going to have different probably comfort levels when it comes to the term. Certainly don't know what the interest rate's going to be. And so I just think those are really difficult things to flesh out. I mean, you know, when we send this out on Thursday, if someone had told us Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday this morning, you know, we could have done our best, but I have to tell you, I'm not terribly comfortable with that because inevitably someone will come back and say, well, you told us it was going to cost X.
Yeah, I mean, true, but at the same time, we have to be able to go back and say, well, you guys made a decision to pass this without realizing what the impact, the true impact is on the tax. And trust me, if Linda was here, you'd be getting an earful about it. But
I'm very interested in us passing this tonight.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not understanding the difficulty. Okay, there's a few people in the audience that might think I'm rather dense, but we could decide that we are going to hold back $150,000 a year as a priority until the fire truck shows up. Okay, and anticipate that we are going to do that and we will have $600,000 when the fire truck shows up. Okay, and in the meantime, having ordered the fire truck, we can be looking for the best deal on financing the difference. We can just do that, okay? I don't want to spend the money, okay? But I don't want to be the one that voted no and found out we lost a mom and 2 kids on the 3rd floor because we couldn't get to it with a 28-foot ladder, right? We're the only town, if you take Giles' word, no reason why you shouldn't, under 8,000 people that has a ladder truck, but so what? Okay, we really do need to look at what's in the best interest of our residents here. It's not like we can't say how much we're gonna have left over at the end of the year. We can just decide to put that $150,000 a year in a fund until we have to finance the difference between that total amount and the ladder truck. We can just do that.
And to Andy's point, if we have surplus this year, maybe this becomes the top priority, you know, and so maybe it's more than $150,000. Budgeting, and particularly when you're engaging in capital planning, is all about priorities. And so if you want this to be the top priority, we'll try to make as much money, you know, makes it into that account as possible.
It's like Shannon said, if we have to chop a little, suppose we don't just ditch the paving budget, but suppose we only come up with 125,000, right? And we say, okay, we're going to take the other 25 out of the paving. We're going to put that much aside every year and we're going to invest it, collect the interest on it. And when it comes time to pay for the truck, we're going to pay that in cash for the truck and finance the rest.
Have you had any meetings with the department heads yet regarding budgets?
No, budget sheets go out the first week of January.
You know of any big asks?
Oh, gosh, no.
There's in any of the other departments?
I think the 3 biggest asks are when it comes to, you're talking about capital, right?
Yes.
Okay. Paving, this fire truck, radio communications.
And where do we stand with the radio communications with the grant?
Haven't heard anything since I last.
Denied though, right?
It has not, I have not heard anything from Senator Collins' office since I last gave you an update. And just so you know, and Dan has already warned, this is a Hail Mary, but once we sign a contract, we'll apply for the federal grant for fire apparatus.
I think we'd be applying for whatever we can.
We will, but everyone got real excited about that. And Dan said, yeah, we've applied for it about 17 times and we've only ever gotten one small grant for that. So So just so everyone knows, we'll apply for it, but I don't want anyone thinking that'll come to pass.
Yeah, no, I understand. And my kind of opinion is like, if we're going to commit to a 5-year plan here at $2 million roughly, right? Then we have to do it with the thought that we're going to plan for that, right? As we're going to prioritize it. That's why I had asked the question to is, can we?
But it might
build
not
that
be a
in?
5-year plan. I mean, the Freeport note is for 10 years. And so is 10 years the better number?
In regards to what, I guess?
I think he means 5 years before
Yeah.
it arrives.
Yeah, bingo. Like
And then-
we should be spending this 5 years allocating. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I misunderstood.
Yeah. No, that's fine.
I thought you were talking
it's
about a
more
note.
it's more for when the reval hits, right? Because if property values go up, and it's a what if, and just say they do, right? We're not going to be able to crank the mill rate down if we have an extra 2 mil that we have to account for over here. That's why if we can do the math like Roy has with 150 here, boom, boom, boom for 4 years, we get closer. It's still a ballpark number because we're kind of talking shop like that anyways now, but at least we're that much better off in 4 years when it does arrive that we're not in the hole so much. And it's not as detrimental to the taxpayers. That's why I'm asking to build it in.
Yeah. And to Jim's point, the mill rate will definitely go down after the revaluation. It will definitely go down. But, some people will see such an increase in their values that will more than offset the decrease in the mill rate.
Which means we may not be able to blow the mill rate low enough if we had to plan for on some level. Is really where my fear lies, right?
Yes,
So-
but in the whole scheme of things, this won't it'll make a difference. It
It's
won't.
like 30% of our budget though, isn't it? We do like 6 million.
We're not paying it off in 1 year though.
Yeah, no, I know, but it's still like if it's a linear rate, right? As far as it goes after once the horse is out of the barn, we have to manage that, right? That money that we owe this Pierce, right? So it's just a thought. I'm okay with all this as long as we're stuffing money away, planning ahead for it, like you would with anything else. So.
Oh yeah, I think the intention would always have been that when whatever surplus that we have this year, we're going to say, now don't forget, we got a fire truck that's coming to us in 4 years. We should sock some money away for that.
I think we need to be real serious about it on a lot of levels.
I just think we have to commit to that $150,000 a year. That's part of the budget. End of conversation. 5 years from now, we'll have $750,000 and we'll have to finance the rest.
Yeah, I get it, but this council might not be here, right?
Before we continue this conversation, I would just like to get a consensus from the board, council. So would you like to table this and reschedule sometime in the next 2 weeks? Or would you like to go ahead and make a decision this evening? Do you want, not in favor of tabling? What do you want to do?
Just really like that.
Okay.
Maybe he can't come up with anything real. Stock here. I know you're not be able to come up with anything real, but if I was to coming up and saying I had $150,000 or if it's 160, but if it's 250, that's a big difference, right? Just kind of give me a range because you're looking at a car payment when you go in and get, by Danny's point, you're going to buy a car, right? You have a payment in mind. I'm going to pay $500. That's my payment. Salesman goes in, does the negotiation, comes back out. He says, well, I can do it for 510. And you're like, well, I want to stay at 500, but next thing you know, you own this car for
I can get you
$500.
higher than that.
You're
Trust me.
Yeah,
Come on in.
but
I can get
to my
you
point is, it's like, if we had an idea of a rough, even if it's $10,000 difference one side or the other, I think I just would know what I'm committing our taxpayers to. So, and I don't know if I know that right now, if it's going to be $250,000. I think we can have some type of
I think we got it.
close number.
On a table.
If-
Boy.
If
do
you
you-
folks want to meet again in the next 2 weeks, we will bring you something as long, Jim, as you don't come back and say to the town manager, the finance director, no, you told us it was going to cost X.
Boy.
So I guess my position is this, inevitably, we're going to be getting a truck. The $150,000 that we've already put aside, if we commit to making it a priority for 150 until the truck comes here per year, and again, that's something that we're going to have to do as a council. And then it looks to me, based on what I can tell, if we did like 8-year loan at 4%, it should be somewhere around 150 for the 8 years. So that tells me, that would essentially be 150,000 over the next 12 years would be the payment schedule or something close to that, roughly.
Honestly,
I mean,
you
it makes sense.
You can make it that. It's how much money you put aside between now and then. I mean, you can move that payment any way you want.
But
You
the
just
point
gotta
is
be a
trying
little
to
more
keep
conscious
everything
to it.
flat.
Yeah. So
No,
I'm,
right now, we've started that by last year putting 150. And if we keep that flat,
Correct.
Okay,
Are
but,
you looking to hold off on making a decision
I
tonight?
kind of agree,
Are you-
Bruce.
Just tonight?
I mean, yeah, Bruce, right. Roy?
so if we commit, if we in the motion literally commit, this is the only way I will even vote for this. Is if we determine a cost, the closest estimate to what we're going to be making for a payment on a yearly basis that we will be budgeting when we have in our paying for the apparatus because we have the loan. And we start that in our budget this year. And we put aside that amount starting this year. So by the time we have delivery and we are paying on this, that it is absorbed into the current mill rate. So we do not have to even question whether or not we're putting the money. So people aren't going to then come back and say, well, you bought this truck, the mill rate's up, and it's not going to even be a question. Zero questions.
but what you're talking about is not using budget surplus to build the capital reserve. You're talking about raising and appropriating to build
Yes.
the capital reserve. Okay. I just want to make the distinction clear. Those are two different things.
the 150,000 that we put in last year, was that surplus?
So
Surplus. So
It was.
Sean, if I could just throw in 2 cents, you wouldn't even need to do the whole 150 now. You could start off at 50, then go to 100, then go to 150. You'd have to bring in a little more money from your outside money, but when it comes time to hit a payment of 150 grand, you're there. You've created that payment over, say, 3 years, so you don't have to take it all in one shot. But when it comes time to make that payment, it's already in the tax rate.
But
You
at that
follow what I'm
point,
saying?
at that point, though, we're going to be timing it just right with the revaluations too. Increasing, if you're saying to keep bumping the payment up, we're going to be,
Or just take a little bit out of your tax dollar versus taking it out of surplus. That goes toward that
Exactly.
payment.
I think I'm more comfortable putting it now because I know watching the finance forecasting that we've been going through, I do see that we're going to have, I don't want to jinx us, but we have room to absorb this without, I think, affecting even so much as not having a surplus potentially for next year. But that's why I want to do it now. And I think in the long run, it will save us money having it in that account, dedicated account and planned for. That makes sense?
It does.
You know,
I'm aligned with Aaron and
It's, yeah, I'm kind of with Aaron. I mean, if we commit to 150,000 all year, not only are we going to have the 750,000, we're going to have the interest we gained on putting that money in the capital reserve and investing it. Okay. So, and then as Roy said, we'll just keep paying the 150,000 until the truck's paid off when the time comes. I mean, whether we borrow it or whatever, I think we got to make a decision. We're just chasing our tails.
So what do you guys want to vote tonight?
So what I would suggest is, I don't think we need to say we're going to, raise taxes by $150,000. I don't think that needs to be part of the motion tonight.
Right.
Just commit to this, and then we'll make sure that stuff happens moving forward.
Well, but the best way, Anthony, to make sure that thing happens is to
No,
commit to have it
no,
happening.
you guys hold the town manager accountable during budget season, and it'll get done.
There you go.
And in the
Motion.
meantime, Nick and I will do our best working with John Simcoe to try to provide some scenarios, and we'll bring that back to you at your January meeting.
you reach back out to Monmouth and Manchester,
About,
trying to get them to help us with this.
okay, I will try, Roy, but I cannot drag them to the table. I cannot make them commit to anything.
Chair will entertain a motion. Yes, please.
You want me to try again?
I think she would mean though that we're utilizing it as a ladder truck, not a engine.
We don't use it for anything,
When
for the most part.
you put a ladder up every single time that truck goes out, Dan.
I'm not gonna say it goes out every time, but we don't put the ladder up every time it goes out, but it goes out as the ladder truck. We don't send it. The only time we send it first is on a chimney fire.
Right.
But every other time we send an engine, so the engine's doing the engine work, the ladder goes to be a ladder. The pump is there as a backup so we can flow water off the truck without needing another truck. When our primary engine is down, it's pretty new, so it doesn't happen a lot. If it's the second one. It's our mutual aid truck. We probably run 10 to 15 mutual aid calls. They might ask for an engine, so we'll send an engine. But if they don't ask, it goes probably 15 times to other towns and it probably responds 25 to 30 times, no more than that, probably 35 times in town. Doesn't necessarily mean we use it every time, but I use the same thing. We talk, another great subject is a boat.
Right.
My engine.
Really want to
can't
bring
go
that
in the
up,
middle of
huh?
the lake. So the ladder can't go there.
Know your audience, Dan.
Each one has its own function, so
We'll
they
say this, as
have to do their own thing.
Yeah, she wrote it down over there, I think.
To the council.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah. When we're talking about this is a great time to talk about the school budget. And I think that when we're talking about all of this money that we're spending, let's think about the school budget too, because if you save on that, you're gonna be able to have extra money here. And we just keep putting that elephant out in the corner of the room and just ignoring it. But that eventually has to be addressed. And that's extra money that can go to things like a ladder truck that we need for some of the things that we're spending up at those schools that we don't necessarily need anymore with our shrinking population.
Great.
You did a great job last year, minimizing. Reading at this point. Wait to see what. Anything else?
So I have a concerned citizen that just wanted me to mention that you as a group get to choose how much money gets put aside, how much this ultimately costs and all that. We can talk about it'll be this payment for this or this payment for that. Honestly, you can make the payment whatever you want based on how much money you put aside between now and then.
Understood, but what it cancels when we account for it every time we do it, because if we do that every time, then come budget time, then you're looking at, oh, well, you were gonna, here and here. So at least for me, in my mind, it's easier to get set every time we come across a large capital acquisition.
Again, it's priorities, and it's really helpful if we have residents that help us
Yeah, thanks for saying.
understand what our town's priorities are. So please reach out to the counselors and share your thoughts. I'm talking to everybody online that's watching this on YouTube later, that's in the audience. Please reach out to the counselors and share what your priorities are for
Very
this
hard to
town.
hear after the fact.
Yes.
Anybody talking online?
And do we have this written down somewhere or?
I got it.
Do it again?
I think I'll try.
Again.
Okay.
Okay, I make a motion that we commit, don't have it fit, Anthony, please. $150,000 in our capital reserve fund each year until such time.
Wait.
It's not what,
And one that you had done before.
okay, but then we have to do the 150.
It comes budget process time. We will decide that
Okay.
during the budget process.
All right, I move to approve the purchase of an aerial ladder fire apparatus from Allegiance Fire and Rescue Pierce Equipment for the sum of $1 million, I wish, $948,235.
Subject to selling.
Okay, subject to selling, engine number 2 and truck 3 to ensure that we're not just replacing.
You don't have to.
Second.
Aaron, any further discussion? All in favor? All are in favor. Thank you.
Hey, you can clap. I'm proud of that.
Well, that was easy.
Oh my God. Thank you very much, Chief Brooks, for coming in
No,
and
thank
explaining
you,
all.
and I will try to get you some, if you got more questions, that you just give it to me and I'll get you whatever you want, you need, as best I can.
And thank you for your firefighter support and coming in tonight. Appreciate it.
Hey, Dan, if you could just make sure kind of keep us up to date or have Anthony, or you go through Anthony, just keep us updated what the status is of the truck. I just didn't see a message up there saying you did deliver early. What's the penalties or the outcomes of what we're gonna have to deal with that? So. keep us
Yeah,
abreast
just
with that.
quickly, I will say though, this has been very difficult. It's a lot of money. It's not an easy decision. You guys have always supported the fire department, and that does not go unnoticed within the department. We understand that these are huge sacrifices, and we do appreciate that. So thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, item 168, I propose we table the discussion of building permit fees.
That'll suit me and Mark just fine.
Second.
Thank you, Zach. Oh.
No, he was.
He's here for the fire truck.
Okay,
Nope,
any
nope, don't-
discussion on tabling the building permit fees?
No,
Who made the motion?
Shannon made the
I
motion.
do have a couple.
Andy made the motion, Aaron seconded it.
Oh, for that
All
one.
in favor? It was the same. Oh, tabling, that was me, and then Zach seconded that. That's good. All in favor to table? All are in favor to table. Thank you. Item 169, consideration of November 2025 disbursement warrants.
To approve the disbursement warrants for November 2025.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, all are in favor. Item 170, consideration of recommendations from the Appointments Committee. We have a Patrice Putnam for the Cemetery Committee with a term of expiration for December 31st, 2028.
I make a recommendation, move to confirm the recommendation of the appointment committee, Therese Putnam to the cemetery committee.
Okay, second. Is there a second? I'll second. Any discussion? All in favor? And, okay, all are in favor. Thank you. We can table that. Oh, we can cancel. Okay, at this time, I will open it up for public comment. Is there anyone, there's no one in the audience. Is there anyone online that has any comments? Seeing no comments online, we'll move on to the town manager's report.
Next Monday, we'll get the results of the decertification election for the general employees unit. As soon as I learn what that is, that'll be Monday afternoon. I will let all of you folks know. Meeting dates, looking ahead. We have our January 13th meeting and our February 19th meeting. Both fall on federal holidays. Do y'all want to just meet like the day after on a Tuesday or?
Okay with meeting anyway.
Huh?
I'm okay with meeting anyway.
I'll be here if you guys want to come in.
I'm okay. It doesn't bother
Sorry,
me a
give
bit.
me the
Say-
dates again.
January 19th,
January 13th
13th,
and
2026?
wait.
I'm looking at January 19th as
That would
Martin
be-
Luther King Day.
Tuesday.
Yeah,
Then it'd be the 12th. No, that's not right. Oh,
January 19th is a federal holiday.
okay. So let's scratch January.
That's our second meeting of the month.
Oh, you know what? Actually, well, I'm sorry. I am confused.
You're out.
2026.
No, it's January 19th.
It's Martin Luther King.
Correct.
Yes.
So that one you want to,
That one, if you guys want me to come in, I'll be happy to come in and meet. I don't have an issue with that. Okay. MLK Day.
I don't matter.
MLK Day. Huh? Oh, no, not that early.
do we need a second meeting that month? Do we need a second?
I tell you what, let's see how our first meeting in January goes, then we'll decide if we need another meeting in January. Yeah. And then February 19th is that the right date? No, February 16th is President's Day. So, but we'll wait until February to decide that. So, okay. Our next meeting, just a reminder, we'll need to elect a chair. We're going to bring a proposal to you from the planning board. Our zoning ordinance, our planning board ordinance, which dates back decades, and our planning board bylaws are all in conflict with one another about how the planning board is to operate. So we'll bring an updated planning board ordinance to you at the next meeting so that you can start aligning that so it's current and accurate. And then also, I don't know if you've seen the messages through the MMA, but the Mint is no longer creating pennies. And so towns are trying to figure out what they're going to do when they run out of pennies. And so I saw one interesting idea. We'll have to check about the legality of it, but we may bring you a penny policy as to what we're going to do, either rounding up or rounding down the cost depending upon where it falls. So, and then lastly, I'd like to talk about town office hours, a topic I've broached with some of you previously. And speaking of which, on Christmas Eve, I would like to close the town office at 1 p.m. that day. I was here the afternoon before Thanksgiving. No one came. Christmas Eve, I expect even fewer people will come because they'll all be looking to spend time with their family. We do have some folks with some young children. I would like to close the town office at 1. Well, we don't need a motion, but because I figure if anyone's going to conduct business and they have to work, they can do it during their lunch hour. And then after that,
Yeah, it's fair.
we're closed.
Yeah.
He's like,
Good, yeah.
Okay, that's all I have.
Are there any comments from residents? We'll go around to the councilors in a second. I just wanted to see if there were any other comments as everyone was walking out. Something.
No, there was,
Joey was bees.
that's the Monmouth CEO who once worked for me in Belgrade. So
Okay. Any other comments from the council? James and then Aaron.
sure, mine's real quick. We missed did Don tell you we missed some lights converting downtown? We missed some streets from the LED conversion.
oh, wait a second. Are you talking about in the heart of the village?
Yeah, they missed the ones that go wrap around the post office. So they're all still domed. No, they belong to us.
Okay, I'll
It's like 5 of them.
I'll contact Affinity about that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Hey, pull your microphone down so people hear this on YouTube.
Yeah, I thought it was just us here. So talking about radio services, because we bill for radio services currently today, right? To different towns.
Dispatch.
Radio services, but dispatch. Okay, I'll use that term. I don't want to include that as part of the consolidation.
Oh, no.
So I mean, I just want to make sure that was separate, that's a build separately.
Agreed.
So for dispatching, I know we would be combining and then they would be saying it was all one department and why you just roll it into one, but how's that look? I mean, I'm conflicted a little bit about the cost because I feel like if we're one department, Winthrop's going to go over to Monmouth and Monmouth's going to come over to Winthrop and it's just going to be the same coverage and we're probably the same amount of real estate as far as looking at the postage stamp and driving around. So I just was thinking a 50-50 split. I know they're probably not going to buy into it, but that's just my quick thoughts here without having to drag any more into that conversation. But that's just my thoughts because I know when I asked him about staffing, he says it's not going to change, but I think if we're one department, why wouldn't we drive over to Monmouth and then drive over to here for backup? So I just my quick 2 cents.
Okay.
And negotiation.
Anything else? I'll make a motion that we adjourn the meeting at 9:09 p.m.
We have a session?
No, we're not going into that.
Okay.
Andy, any discussion?
Yeah.
All in favor? All right, all are in favor. Thank you.